right, so it is Monday, July 22nd at 7 p.m. and our chairperson is running just a few minutes late, so we're going to go ahead and open things up. So I'll entertain a motion to open the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Yeah, we don't have to vote.
Abstain? No? Okay. All right.
Only if it's hearing do we have to vote to open it, I think.
Thank you, Amy.
At least we agree.
So the first the first item on our agenda is the discussion on Legacy Farms North Road bus issue, and I know we've talked a little bit about this in the past. I know that this is something that Muriel, I think, very much wanted to be a part of, and I'm wondering if maybe there's a few other things on administrative items that we can move forward with now. Does that make sense, John?
Yep.
And in particular, I'm just thinking, I want to make sure that Muriel's a part of this discussion, and I'm not really sure it's worth starting with her. Do we have any sense as to how long she might be?
She said a few more minutes.
A few more minutes? Okay. So actually, let's start with the approval of the June 24th meeting minutes. Any commentary or discussion on those? If not, then I'll entertain a motion to accept the June 24th, 2019 meeting minutes.
So move.
Second? Were they in the packet?
They were.
You were? Okay, they're not in the table of contents, but okay.
Any discussion?
So one thing to note, the minutes have been revised from what was included in the packet. The documents at the bottom were not included, and now they are.
Okay.
I don't know, do you want us to read them off what the documents were? Or
Sure.
any need for that?
I'm sorry?
Is there any need for us to tell you what the documents were, or do you want us to just,
Sure.
we have them?
No.
No, okay, I'll open it up.
Well, basically, as far as approval of the minutes, that's not the important part.
Right.
And when I file them with the town clerk, they'll just be included. So they're on Google Drive.
Yes, I can,
Well, a friendly amendment is that we accept the documents as posted on Google Drive.
Okay. So are you moving to amend?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion about the amendment to accept the minutes with the condition that we all take a look at the changes? Is that right?
No discussion.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed or abstained? Okay. What else can we do fairly?
We haven't moved the minutes, though.
yeah, that was just on the amendment.
Sorry. Thank you, Mary. All right. So I guess at this point, I will entertain a motion to accept the minutes with the amendment.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstained? All right. We good?
Oh, good.
Thank you. I've never actually done this before. So.
No.
The best way to learn is to do it.
No time like the present. Absolutely.
Yes.
That's why you've done it before.
No.
So Gary, I think Design Review Board is pretty straightforward. There's 7 applicants and 7 positions. We could maybe do that without Muriel.
Good suggestion.
Thank you, Amy.
I second that motion.
No more voting.
So really quickly, just in terms of the applicants there, so who is stepping, I mean, most of them are returning members of the Design Review Board.
We've had a vacancy for a year, so the 7th person would be new, but there was a vacancy.
So we have 7 openings and 7 applicants.
So 5 members and 2 alternates.
Oh, right, yeah.
Okay. So then do we need to vote on which 5 are the full-time members and which 2 are the alternates then?
Yes.
I suggest we do a slate though with them slotted as it's kind of listed.
What's that?
I suggest we vote as a slate, so these are the 5 full members, these are the 2 alternates.
Yeah, rather than one by one.
Okay.
I believe Deb is specifically requested to be an alternate.
Who did?
Deb,
Okay.
no one
So,
else.
so really quickly, we've got Jeff Doherty, Amy Ritterbusch, Jeanette Thompson, Rita McNamara, Deb Feinberg, sorry, thank you, Joe Regan,
That's all I see.
6.
Sue Ellen Stoddard.
What's that?
And Sue Ellen Stoddard.
Who, the one printed out in
Right.
front of you.
Okay. And so Deb is requested to be an alternate. Maybe to make this most efficient, are there any, what's the best way to, does anybody have any strong preferences or recommendations for who the 5 full-time members should be?
So
Isn't it-
Mr. Jared, did anyone else request to be an alternate other than Sue Ellen?
I didn't notice that they did.
Deb, not Sue Ellen.
Okay.
Deb did, yeah.
Oh, Deb, sorry, Deb, sorry, my mistake.
So, Amy, I was under the impression, through the chair, that there were 2 people that wanted to be alternates, or one person who's been an alternate and wouldn't mind continuing as an alternate.
I think that was just Deb, because the other alternate spot was vacant. It used to be Sean McGinnis, but she hasn't been on it for a
So
while.
who's the new,
Who's the new applicant?
So we have to decide who,
So-
Joe
so-
Regan is the new applicant, he's not been on the committee
Joe?
before.
Joe Regan.
So I think all 7 of these people would be great, and I think, generally, with the recommendation, I would recommend that the new person be the alternate, and then
That makes the most
to
sense.
get used to the committee.
Yeah.
Because I was an alternate for a while before I was a full member, and I almost always got to come and speak and vote, so it didn't really make much difference that I was an alternate.
I think
I-
that makes a lot of sense.
I'd also say too that I think
Do
that's
we have to all
a,
stand when she comes in the room? I'm sorry, No, I just was
Such a
wondering.
traditionalist.
My father, I can't help it.
I know, I love it.
I would put that on your mom.
No, my dad,
so
military family.
Because she's a woman?
just a quick update.
Yes,
We held off on the discussion on Legacy Road North because I
Perfect.
know that's an important one to you.
yes.
We did approve amended minutes,
Nice,
and we decided to move on to the Design Review Board appointments, which
nice.
we think is reasonably clean cut. Mary and Amy are really driving the meeting here, not me.
Let's have a piece of paper from someone that
Yeah,
came
you can have this.
downstairs.
Is that good, or?
And so, long story short, we have 7 applicants for 7 positions.
Oh, I love it when a plan comes
We
together.
need 5 full-time applicants, or 5
Full members.
full members and 2 alternates. Deb has requested to be an alternate,
Okay.
and I think we're in reasonably good alignment that the other new applicant would be an appropriate second alternate.
Mr. Joe Regan.
Oh, nice,
So we
okay.
would effectively be returning Jeanette Thompson, Amy Ritterbusch, Jeff Doherty, Rhea McNamara, and
Sue Ellen.
thank you, Sue Ellen Stoddard as the full members. So
Move for a vote.
at this point, I'll entertain a motion to
I'll move the
nominate.
slate.
What's that?
I'll move the slate,
All
as
right.
you just defined.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed or abstain? Okay.
Perfect.
Design Review Board appointments.
And I am busy trying to find my agenda here.
So while you're pulling that up, maybe we can move to the Legacy Farms North bus issue.
Sorry.
Who seconded the slate?
Muriel,
I
I
moved
second it, yeah, because I moved it as well, but I'll second it instead.
I did.
And did you abstain or did you just,
Oh, no, I agree. All right.
Oh, perfect.
Then you can-
Oh, do I have to abstain? Or-
can you vote for yourself?
I don't know.
Yes, you can vote for yourself, 100%. This is America, Amy.
Everybody can vote.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Next.
So did we
Um,
we all voted yes?
We all voted yes.
Nice. All right.
Okay. So we can probably, just while you're getting caught up, Mariel, we can probably move forward to the Legacy Farms North Road bus issue.
Perfect.
Do you,
Yes, I'll carry on from here. Mr. Catino, are you here for this conversation?
Yes, I am.
Come on forward. So just to catch up the viewing public, we have Legacy Farms North Road that has been designed specifically through great collaboration between the town and the state to serve as a spine road and take traffic off of the main road. And it is beginning to be used that way pretty consistently. I think a lot of people are taking advantage of that. And so we have, to that end, we've held a big fancy ribbon cutting with state officials and local officials, and it is being used in the way it was intended to be used. The issue that we are confronting is that because there is so much development still going on off of that spine road in Legacy Farms North, traditionally the town process does not contemplate accepting a road until all construction is done. So this would be a unique case if we were to contemplate accepting that road, and I'm not even sure that it's possible. Do we have any information or feedback from the DPW?
We did not.
Okay, so I'm going to take an action item to have a conversation with John Westerling at the DPW and just see what his feelings are initially, if that's an approach we take. So we have a road that is heavily traveled and heavily trafficked, intentionally so, and housing developments coming off of the sides. And we have an issue because the school bus company is not able to send or not willing to send a school bus up that road. So we have a lot of young children who are having to come down to one point at the corner of Frankland and Legacy Farms North. And there will be only many, many, many more children doing that in the next 4 or 5 years. And particularly in the winter, it presents a challenge with sidewalks that are plowed or not plowed. They do eventually get plowed, but they may not be plowed in time for the school buses. And when I went out there and watched it myself before the end of the school year, because of the way the school bus approaches, it approaches on Franklin and stops at the corner. So in fact, that traffic, that fast-moving through traffic does not stop while those kids are waiting at that bus stop. So the parents there that are there now, and I have full confidence that the parents that move in will also get engaged on this, would like us to find a solution where the children are not interacting with higher speed traffic in that way along there. So I don't know what the answer is. It's possible, Gary, it was you that put that thought in my head. It's possible that we think about Legacy Farms North a little bit like we think about existing roads, 135 or Hayden Row or other roads that smaller new roads come off of, and we find a way to accept it, and therefore let the school bus come up, and the school children would still have to come up from the side roads up to Legacy Farms North, but that seems a more amenable solution. But I just was, I was late actually because I was having a conversation with the chair of the select board as well as the chair of the school committee. And the upshot is we all have different thoughts about how this might be approached or what needs to happen. But we are all committed to finding a solution. And the challenge is that we all have to find a solution to a somewhat unique situation together. So, but I think we can do that. I'm not sure we can do it by September 1, but I think that we can do it pretty handily. And I know Mr. Catino has been working the issue, so I'll let you jump in.
Thank you. Through the chair, I think we have to look at it as a short-term solution, a mid-term solution, and a long-term solution. The easy one would be the one that you just spoke of with your vice chair saying, can we accept the road as it is and leave the bonding, and then condition the heck out of it like we do a lot of stuff, so that make sure that when the whole development is finished, that the road is brought up to the standards that we normally would expect. But, to the chair's point, that we have been using the road as a town road since before we cut the ribbon. And it is doing its job. It is pulling off at least 15% of the traffic that goes right to Southborough as intended. But then, we're also looking at some short-term and mid-term solutions with the school committee and the administration. We were looking at trying to get a separate bus that the developer said that they would pay for, but the only quote that came back was for $300,000 for the year. And we normally pay somewhere between $55,000 and $60,000 per bus. But I don't know whether they didn't understand it or not. They were going to send one of those luxury coaches that kneel, and they have the air conditioning, the little TVs. And we thought that was a bit much to take the kids, 2 miles to school. So hopefully they just misunderstood it, But then the developer was also suggesting maybe just that they would get a bus to pick up the kids in the neighborhoods and just bring them down to Franklin Road until we got a chance to accept it. But they're also looking at that as an alternative for the short-term, mid-term solution. But, what would be the best is if the planning board and the select board could get together with the townspeople and try to accept the road as is with a lot of conditions, and have a special town meeting to put it forward and see if we could get the town to buy in on it.
Yes.
What was the midterm solution again?
Well, that was just one of the, if we could get it, one of the busing solutions, whether it be the bus that picks up the kids and just brings them to the bus stop, or a bus that takes them right from all of their places right to the school. Because they already have a bus route at Franklin Road, so rather than double up on that. But, and then all that bus would have to do is turn up Franklin Road. But to the chair's point, one of the issues really was that the bus stopped at the corner and people were still flying by, which was why it was really important that we got a police officer there. And we had, for the last month, we had a police officer there for at least one of the pickups each time. And most of the times he did have to do one of these to pull a few people over. And
So people are not legally obligated to stop if the bus is not on.
No, I'm talking about speeding. No, people were, to your point, people were, there was one person doing 54 down the road. And that was, and then there was another one speeding down the road. It happened to be one of the smaller school buses, one of the private school buses that brings kids to, one of the private schools in the area. And he was able to nab them also.
So if I may, through the chair, so we've already explored the bus company is unwilling or unable to send a bus on a non-approved road. So that's the only way to get a school bus on that road is for the road to be approved.
From that school bus company, if I'm sorry, through the chair.
From that particular school
From
bus
that, yeah, right.
Okay.
Let's
And
keep it
then-
informal because it's conversational. That's fine with me.
Oh, thank you, sorry.
The only way to get the road accepted as a town road is through a town meeting, correct?
Yes.
So then the options to accept the road are either we do a special town meeting, which also has some fairly substantial costs to it, doesn't it?
It's not that bad.
No,
It's about
thanks.
$3,000.
Well, that's all?
Yeah, and depending on the size of it, could be as little as 1,600, I think.
Okay.
It's not a huge, I know it's a huge undertaking to post and invite and hope that we get a quorum from that regard, but it's not a huge cost.
Hopefully we can get those
The
50
neighborhood.
or 100 families to show up.
Yeah.
Right?
And then just one last thing too, and I don't know, again, just as I think about this, a couple things come to mind, and so I realize a bus company might cost a lot of money, but, there's van rentals too. And the other thing I just throw out there is carpooling. I realize that, and I realize that, I don't know if I don't think any of the neighborhood or the people in it are here now, but, to me, you could very, very easily and substantially cut down the number. It doesn't solve the problem, but from a temporary solution, with a little bit of coordination among the neighborhood, they could substantially reduce the number of cars that are going down there. But
I don't disagree. Did you have any other questions or thoughts?
I'm just nodding my head because I made a little grid here of all the players involved, and I'm glad that John mentioned the bus company as something we could work with, and there's a school committee, planning board, select board, DPW, police, and then the developer has some role in this as well. But Gary mentioned the neighbors themselves being part of the solution, short-term, mid-term solution, carpooling. That's an excellent idea. The fastest answer would be to accept the road ahead of schedule. There are risks with that. Town meeting, special town meeting, there's a risk with that as well. But long-term, any terms, we need safety for the kids, and maybe a shelter for them to wait in that's protected from traffic, that's sturdy enough if a car would hit it, wouldn't fall down. Something that would be keep them dry when it's raining like it is now, and when it snows, something that who does remove the snow on the sidewalks?
The developer.
Yeah, the developer. The developer's been very cooperative in this, saying that wanted to be part of it. But then again, as we all know, it is the town we're supposed to get our children to the schools.
Sure.
And they really only have to. They really only have to get to Franklin Road as far as carpooling. But that's one of the issues that Muriel saw, is that there are at one point there were 30 cars on one side of the road.
Yeah, so it is actually not a solution. There's a typo on our TV. It's not a solution to carpool to Franklin Road. It's not.
Right.
It's frankly not. It is so unsafe at that corner, standing there watching it. The only solution is to carpool to the schools. And I don't disagree that is potentially, this is my perspective, listen to me talk, but I had to park down the road and tuck in at Western Nurseries to think that my car was safely parked and I wasn't presenting a hazard. There is no place to put vehicles to carpool and wait down there. Carpool and drop off is even, I think, problematic. Amy, I just want to go around the table and make sure we get everybody.
Yeah, I had a few questions. So it seems like it's been hard to get special town meetings in the past, so I wondered if the selectmen have specifically discussed this yet, whether they have appetite to call a special town meeting? And if not, can we ask them to put that on their agenda, if they should consider that? And two, if I were a town meeting voter, I would want to make sure there was documentation in writing about why all these other solutions won't work before accepting the town road. So, because it's like very, the idea of just providing extra insurance for the bus is very appealing to me, and it seems like that would be fairly inexpensive. So I guess I'd want to see it documented and written out that it is really more expensive than a special town meeting.
I don't disagree,
Yeah.
and I was surprised to hear a really quick no, but I think that you're exactly right, that these sort of more short-term solutions that might fix the problem in a more and I'm not saying that the solution is necessarily to accept the road, but there is a solution out there between us. We can figure out something.
So I have a comment and a couple questions. The first comment is, if that corner is the safety issue, why not move up or down Franklin Road for the bus stop to get away from the corner with the traffic going? So I don't know if the traffic's on Franklin Road that's an issue. No, because that stops, right?
The next one would be 135,
No, does it have to be a corner?
the next
About
corner.
Franklin.
Does it have to be a corner? Doesn't have to be a corner.
Well, the bus comes out from Franklin Road and then can't go right because that's, I guess, where the private road starts. And then going left is 135.
But they stop right at the corner. They could stop 200 feet before the corner or 200 feet after the corner on the side of the road.
Franklin Road, where it meets Legacy Farms North, there's no sidewalk that goes down Franklin Road. So the bus stop down Franklin Road would put them on basically
Because there's
a shoulder with no curb and things like that. So,
But that could
works in the spring, but doesn't really work in the winter, from my perspective. And there's also, you know, a lot of kids, lots of kids, so.
So thank you for that input, and just commenting, maybe a short-term solution would build a short sidewalk. We're just throwing options out there, right?
No,
Yep.
I'm open to, I'm solution focused.
Yeah.
I want to make sure, hold on, we're going to go around the
Yep, so
table.
that was my comment. The questions I have, maybe John can answer them or Muriel. So if the road was accepted, does the town?
Hold on one
Yep,
second.
go ahead.
Can I entertain a motion to open and continue at the applicant's request, the public hearing for 76 Main Street? When do they want to be?
They said September, we tentatively have it for September 9th, but we can do the second meeting in September as well.
So I'm fine doing September 9th. Can I have a motion to open and continue the public hearing to September 9th?
So moved.
Second.
Do we have to change okay. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Do we-
Thank you, sorry about that.
Do we have to state the time?
We're not setting the time.
Okay.
Remember, we're trying a whole new approach. Yes, but thank you for that.
Although I don't hear so well. 76 Main Street.
So the applicant, I'm sorry, the applicant has requested a continuance, and we have continued it to September 9th.
To do it for a year or two.
We started with a couple of months. September 9th. You're welcome.
So I'm not sure who to best answer this, but the question is, if the road is approved, Legacy Farms North, would the town be plowing the sidewalk?
I don't know how far out the town does that. I know that my neighborhood doesn't get done. I don't know how far out away from schools. Do they do Chamberlain?
We don't have sidewalks.
No sidewalks, okay.
Don't even talk to me on North Street.
So maybe that's something we need to follow up with, right? I
Who's
mean,
downtown?
So we'll certainly ask that
So
question.
that's not gonna do us any good to accept the road if the sidewalk's not plowed.
Yeah.
No, it will, because they will get picked up near their clubhouse area, or rather, they won't have to walk on Legacy Farms North Road, they'll get picked up.
It's still I guess it's still an
still a
open question, but you're right, they will walk up, the bus would come up the Spine Road and pick them up at the.
Oh,
top.
in each neighborhood,
And
yeah,
they
so
would,
they'd
he
be at
would
each
still have
neighborhood.
to
Yeah,
plow in there,
so that's not as big a
the
problem.
developer, until it's,
But it'd still be a large
It's a
amount of
different-
kids at a corner where there's no sidewalk for them to stand on,
the bus would stop traffic in both directions
right?
in that case, and they would not be walking across along the fast road.
I
I'm
can-
not saying it's necessarily the solution, and we've had a lot of conversations, so I've been thinking about it.
I just think,
There needs to be a
even
safe
with that
place to
solution,
wait.
there's still an issue if the sidewalks are not plowed.
Yes,
That's my question.
I agree with you.
Madam Chair, just one point though, and I think you brought this up earlier, is that I'm under the impression that the bigger safety issue is all the cars queuing more than just because at the end of the day, the kids are on a sidewalk anyways. But
Right,
when you
but
have
the-
30 cars that are lined
But the
up.
cars are actually parked half on the sidewalk, half on the
Yes.
street, facing the wrong direction.
Yes.
So, it is a big piece of the puzzle. I also acknowledge that I got feedback that those sidewalks are not necessarily plowed for the morning walk to the bus stop. He has to do them, and that is a piece to follow up on, and potentially he has to do them by 4 o'clock in the morning, so that, they're done before the kids are walking to the first round, but that's just a piece of the solution too.
But most of Hopkinton doesn't have sidewalks and the buses still pick up
Yeah.
kids.
Or sidewalks plowed.
But our kids are not walking 135 or Hayden Road to do it, right?
But if they only had to walk on the side streets, the Primrose and Lilac,
Right.
then I think then Legacy Farms North does not necessarily have to be plowed, because they're only going to be on the side streets.
I think it's an important question. Are we picking up, snow removal and snow removal on the sidewalks? But I agree.
And one additional comment that I just thought of, with that being a lid development, which I strongly suggested is not a good idea on a main road. There's no curb there, so it really is kind of not any protection from the cars coming off to the side of the road onto the sidewalk. But that's just a comment to move on. What I wanted to ask also is what would be left to, John, you mentioned we'd have to write in a lot of stuff if we got the road approved, conditioned it. Wouldn't it just be putting the top slate on the on the road? What else is left to be done?
No, there's also, sorry, I was about to say through the chair. There's also the trees and the, and the grassy areas in between, the buffer.
So it's landscaping, top
So,
coat
yeah, so
landscaping?
so there'd be all the landscaping and
Okay.
everything else also.
Thank you.
Right.
Mary, my turn, okay. So just, again, I'm going to be restating some of this, just so, we've been talking about a lot of things. So cars queuing, there's clearly no parking there at the corner of Legacy Farms North and Franklin Road for parents to park their cars while their kids are getting on the bus, or to let the kids wait in cars, which is, obviously in bad weather, that's what happens. And repeating what the residents there, who we saw on one site walk, they are carpooling as much as they can right now. But there are, and I was frantically looking for the presentation that was presented to the select board. I can't get it. It's at the moment. But the number of kids. I just wanted to point out, Frank, because you mentioned a shelter for them and things like that, which all good idea. But this is a larger than the number of kids that would fit in a typical bus shelter, for instance. It's a large number of children.
41 for Marathon, 26, so it's 118 children total as of April. So 41 from Marathon School, 26 Elmwood, 17 Hopkins, 15 Middle, 8 high school. So the 41 for Marathon is the big,
yeah, and that's the big
issue.
one, clearly. And those are the age kids, in first grade, kindergarten, first grade, who you wouldn't just expect to go to the bus stop by themselves and wait by themselves. So the cars, the parents need to be there. Even if they walk from home, which it is more than, a short walk. It is a bit of a walk. And so I just wanted to reiterate, some of there's been some things thrown around, and so I just wanted to make it very clear to people what we have heard from the residents and what we have seen when we were up there. So there's no real parking there on Franklin, on Legacy Farms North, or there's no cross streets nearby that they could pull into. There's simply no parking there, so they have to do the kind of half onto the grass next to the sidewalk. It's no other option. The kids' safety, waiting and boarding is as big a concern as the cars. Because, as Muriel mentioned earlier, because the traffic is not stopping for the bus loading. The traffic does not stop on Legacy Farms North. And we did talk about some possible ways that could change. I don't know if those have gone anywhere. And I'm looking at both you, John and Muriel, in your conversations besides this, there was talk about, can the bus pull forward into Legacy Farms North Road in order to affect a stop of traffic? Like buses, if buses stopping along Highway 85, obviously, everybody stops in both directions. But that is one possible thing, and
That would help in the short term.
it could help in the short term.
Where, if I may interrupt, one of the issues is that the kids would be getting on the bus where the cars are coming down. So the kids would actually be having to walk onto Legacy Farms Road North, halfway up to get on there. And if somebody didn't stop,
That's
it'd be
true.
one of those things that I don't know if the bus company would want to do it. But I remember as a kid, when the buses stopped, that little arm came out so the kids wouldn't
Yeah.
walk in front of the bus. Maybe if they had a really long one that stuck out. I know it
I
sounds
know.
kind of crazy.
Really long.
But that's why we're trying to get get a police officer up there, because, he would stop and he would hold the traffic up
Yeah.
while the kids got on. But again, that's
Not a
that's an
cost-effective
expensive solution too.
At all.
Yeah,
And
to
it's
have them there
certainly-
for every single time the bus gets there, or even, the,
It's 3 and 3, 3 in the
Two.
morning, 3 in the afternoon.
yeah. So, okay. So the kids' safety is a big thing. I also think, even with plowing of sidewalks, there's always mounds of snow before you get to the road that you're usually having to walk over and things like that. And with so many kids, you know, they can't all fit on the sidewalk, basically, you know, they're doing their best. But I understand the short-term possibility of them carpooling to school, but I think that I just have a question about us basically requiring that, you know? It just doesn't seem right. So, okay.
I agree.
That's where I'm at.
Patrick?
More just comments. Just gonna piggyback off what you just said, the last thing, to require residents to carpool is absurd. It's up to the town to provide safety for the kids, it's not up to me. And put that extra burden on some families who can't carpool or take other kids and that responsibility, liability on with that. So that shouldn't be an option at all. If they're carpooling on their own, that's fine. But I think working, like you said earlier, with the developer, if he's hiring a private bus, you know, that's a short-term issue, or how much the insurance, as Amy said, the extra insurance, the cost of that for the liability.
Is it possible?
The school committee told us, so this came to my attention for the first time at candidates debate. And I went to the mic and asked that question, why don't we just pay extra insurance? And both the candidates that were currently on the select board and the candidate that was on the school committee said, nope, we tried that. And the bus company won't accept additional insurance to do that. I don't know all the particulars or.
That's the impression that I was under. That's why when I heard you say that, I was like, oh my gosh, they're entertaining that? That would be a major solution right there. That would be the solution.
Yeah.
Right.
And then we could wait the 3 years or whatever it is to
That's the one
finish
that jumped
legacy.
into my head, the quickest and the fastest, but.
And I guess with, if it's been past practice in the town to approve these streets with conditions on it, then you should do it.
Well, one of the things that if you just noticed in the last 3 years, we've accepted a lot of roads in developments that have been done for 10, 20, 30 years, that they just were forgotten.
Hold on 1 second. Are you here for 76 Main Street? It has been continued to September. Just so, you're welcome to stay. I know it's an entertaining. Sorry, John.
You know, and that's, and, you know, and buses have been going into those developments not knowing that we hadn't accepted those roads.
Right.
And I think it's just because this one was the fanfare of it not being accepted that they just said, oh, wait a minute. But, you know, so some of these roads that we just, even some of the ones we just did this past, I think we had to cross some Ts and dot some Is at the last board meeting. But some of these roads weren't accepted, but nobody knew it. They still had trash pickup, town plowed them, town did everything, people just didn't know.
It's kind of like they live in Hopkinton, they're paying taxes.
Exactly.
Yes, so I have confidence that the major boards in town that have ownership of this issue, so no one board, that's part of the problem that the residents are facing, is that they are diligently going from place to place, and I think that people are trying to work the issue, but it's just nothing, no solution is coming to the top and nothing is sticking. So that was part of my hope in the conversation with the chairman of the select board and the chairman of the school committee, and there is no commitment to a particular kind of solution. I don't want to represent that, but there is certainly a commitment to working together to find a solution. One of the things that so we're having this grand conversation about options and ideas and possibilities, which is excellent. But if we were going to try and accept the road, right? Something that sort of strikes me as pragmatic and constructive and fixes it for all time. The first thing we really need to do is speak to the DPW and the professional staff at town. They have to tell us whether it's even a possibility, and it is a little bit different for sure than what we have done before. So to be honest with you, I think that that's our next step. And I want to make sure we get last thoughts. No practical short-term solution should be ignored either. So it's not that I'm not open to a police officer stopping traffic, or if it's, or I liked the idea, at first, I thought of the bus pulling out, which is what happens actually. My kids happily got picked up at the end of my driveway, I know. But when a new development came in across the road, it presented a little bit of a hazard because the bus came out right where my kids were waiting at the end of the driveway. So they actually had to pull back, which is fine because people would zip around the bus seeing it coming straight up into my driveway to zip around. But the bus would pull out and actually stop traffic on North Street. But it's a smaller street.
Right.
And I don't think that dynamic necessarily works there.
Right, and that, to that point, when the police officer was stopping people going over 50 miles an hour, if it was wet, or there's somebody hydroplaned, or just some black ice, and it would be, but I just really appreciate, thank you so much for putting it on the agenda. Oh,
We're
sorry.
gonna go for last thought.
Oh,
I just
sorry.
want to go back. So from a
Yeah.
process issue, then we're effectively going to request from the DPW and from, I guess I just want to clarify what our next steps are. Because it sounds like our request is like, well, what would those conditions need to be if we
I would
were
like to
to
know if
accept
it's
the road?
possible, right?
Yeah.
Can we do it? And what do we have to do it in this scenario?
Okay, so we'll ask them that question,
Yeah.
and then they will come back to
Us?
us, or a combination of the select board and the planning board. and the
No, I
school
think
committee?
you guys, this is the brain trust to handle, no, this is the planning board,
No, I do think that, not us sitting on this board, but we as a town, we as an entity, the planning board was a big piece, rightly so, of all the planning out there. And we intentionally planned that road, and we intentionally built it first, and we intentionally had the ribbon cutting so we would offload traffic. And I don't think we thought about the implications of the school bus issues, and I think that we need to give that some.
Okay.
I think it rests with
Before you
us.
go for final thoughts, can I ask one quick question?
Yeah,
If we do accept the road, is it possible to keep the bond?
oh, yes.
Oh, yeah, that's what.
Oh, yes. We wouldn't accept it without a
Right.
bond, yeah.
And the developer already agreed to that.
But go ahead, Gary, I'm sorry, what?
No, so just the DPW and the planning department will come back to us.
I think the
with their-
professional staff has to tell us if it's
Yep.
possible.
Okay,
That's
I just
really-
want to clarify that that's where we'll go from here, and that it sounds like there's reasonable alignment that the planning board will
Yeah.
help shepherd this process.
Because the DPW and the professionals in the town really have to think outside the box also, because this is something we never thought of. This being one of the biggest developments in Metro West, our bylaws weren't ready for something like this. It was, who expects for a development to take, 5 or 10 years to be built out, and that's why this one is a hybrid to begin with.
So, and just one of the requests then for our professional staff is that they just make sure to keep the select board and the school committee informed of their recommendations as well, because they are important stakeholders.
So, I actually think that, that we need to be really active about this. This is just a little bit complicating, and I fully agree with that we have to make sure that as we're exploring, different alternatives, this being one of them, that everybody is feeling comfortable as we go along.
Should we have DPW at our next meeting?
So when I was rereading the minutes for this meeting, we had talked about that, and then we didn't invite them, I guess, but I think that, I wrote down an action item to speak to John Westerling at the top of this discussion, and maybe we can get together and just have a conversation and see what needs to happen from their perspective next, and certainly put them on the agenda for the next meeting if that's what makes the most sense going forward. So, Frank, did you have last thoughts?
I'll go after Amy, maybe.
Oh, Amy, go ahead.
Okay. One random thought I had was for a short-term solution, could they put a crossing guard out there with the kids? I don't think that's fairly inexpensive. And then the other one is for the action items. I think we need to directly ask the selectmen to put this on the agenda to discuss. Because I watched the citizens come to the select board meeting and speak at public comment, but that's a frustrating situation because the selectmen can't respond because it wasn't on the agenda.
Yeah, I had actually
So-
asked someone to do that.
I had asked, and it was left off.
Okay, all right. So, yeah, we will make a formal request for that.
Okay.
That's a good idea. Yep.
Yes. One thing, maybe things people don't know is that the software that the school uses for the bus routes, it changes every year, but it's an incredible algorithm and based on the students, where they're going. And this year they could be coming down Franklin, getting picked up. If nothing changes, next year the bus could be going the other way. It depends on the software. But we're looking for a longer term solution. And we shouldn't be caught surprised if say things change, as we were a little bit caught by surprise by the additional students. We did plan it in a way that, well, if we get so many students in the system, we'll get extra money, which we'll use to deal with problems like this. But I don't think
We never planned on the road. This one was, it's, as I said, it's a hybrid.
It's an X factor.
Yeah,
Then
it's
we also did deal with the south side, and they had similar issues. They have similar issues still with traffic. So we should also probably give some consideration to maybe that side of the puzzle too. But at the end of the day, I'm glad.
I'm sorry, is Legacy Farm South an accepted road down there?
Yeah, they're all accepted now.
But they still have some issues.
Okay.
So we can learn from that. What did we do there back in the day when John was on the planning board? But I'm glad that we're all working together. I think the town is best when we work together. Our boards are strong together. It's going to take a combination of the developer and school committee and select board, the neighbors themselves, and the whole town if it comes to it. So I think that we're on the right path forward, and I think that we'll find a solution. One more thing, when we had Franklin Road, the original Franklin Road that going that way, they specifically designed Legacy Road North to slow down traffic to and from Franklin Road. So I don't know if it's because of the bus stop idea, but it does give some level of safety from the faster traffic on Legacy North.
I'm sorry, what is the safety factor?
The way the Franklin Road's cut in, the original Franklin Road was all the way to 135, and now Franklin Road stops at Legacy North, and it's I'm not sure what that is.
Pretty close to a right
They
angle.
recut Main Street and
It's pretty close.
Yeah,
It's close to a right angle.
yeah, it is a slightly different intersection, but it is not a safety feature in that situation.
They said it would slow down traffic at the time. So if we move the bus stop from Franklin Road to Legacy North Franklin Road, it's kind of a dead man's curve there a little bit, a blind spot, maybe not safer, but there might be spaces for parking, because it had been a wetland area, which caused a lot of problems for that intersection anyways in the past. But if parking's an issue, that might be a possible short-term solution.
I don't even know where you're talking
I'm
about.
not sure where you're talking about either.
It's,
I had to look for a place to put my car, yes, we're not gonna get to that. No, but I don't think.
like a trail type of parking lot,
I don't
6
think
to 8
there's a
cars.
place, I don't think there's a place, I really don't.
Yeah, there's a wide grassy area and everything else, but that's on the other side of the sidewalk, and that would make it even more crazy.
Want to go Gary first or no? So I just, in thinking through all this, I just wanted to make, I'll see how this goes over, but a distinction. I think with us discussing all the short-term solutions are a great idea, but I really think that falls in the domain of the selectmen. And I think we should, focus on getting the road accepted as soon as possible. Because we're a zoning committee, I think that's what we should focus on.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So just my thoughts.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
I agree. I was actually thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
And, and the other part of it was that, I would like to, when we hear back from the DPW and town professional staff, I'd like to understand your estimated timing of how long it's gonna take. It's like, we need to, obviously, planning board needs to approve it, and then the town meeting, special town meeting, et cetera. I also want us to, communicate with the school committee, because I would like to see us line up the changes for the bus route, which you were alluding to, so that it can take place and it can become effective as soon as the special town meeting approves this. So that we don't have approval at special town meeting and then another 6-month gap or something like that, okay? And then, based on all of that, you know, then the interim solution that I know that the developer is very willing to work with us on, and hopefully the select board can focus on that piece, is that if we'll know a time frame that the interim solution would need to be in place. You know, whatever that interim solution comes to be. Okay, that's me.
Just quick, just get the main players involved in getting this road accepted as soon as possible. That's
I just want
the only comment I have on it.
Yeah, thank you, guys. I just want to make sure that I am a proponent of exploring this idea of accepting the road for sure. I don't necessarily know that it is the best solution or even a solution. So I really think that I want to encourage us all to be open to whatever the feedback is from the professional staff as to what the best plan is going forward to tackle this. So, so it seems like the thinking, to me, is constructive thinking to find a way to accept the road and solve the problem that way, and that's, in many ways, it seems like the neatest, quickest, most permanent solution. But I think the best way forward is to engage the professional staff to come up with short-term, interim, long-term ideas, solutions in the pathway that makes the best sense forward. So it may not be accepting the road on an accelerated path. It may be something else. So I think that certainly the school committee and the select board chairs are both open to constructive ideas, as I can see that we are as well. So that's really, I think that really now we're at the first place. Somebody needs to direct the professional staff to give us guidance. And I'm happy enough to have that be the planning board. I think it makes sense.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thanks for your time. Really, it's an important subject, and the people of Legacy Farms North, I know will be very appreciative of it. So thank you very much. Thanks for your time. Really, you gave it a lot of diligence.
Yeah, well, we need to move the ball, right?
Thanks so much.
All right, thanks, John.
Thanks for all you do.
Yeah. So, all right. Yes, down to the administrative. Trails coordination, we appointed you,
Yes,
didn't we?
I'm
So
good.
I think we can take.
Yes.
We didn't appoint.
Oh, we did.
Discussed, because it wasn't on the agenda, so we couldn't appoint.
I will entertain a motion to appoint Dave Paul to the
I'm sorry.
trail.
Actually, I take that back.
Okay.
The planning board doesn't appoint. It's a recommendation of the select board to appoint.
I recommend that we send Dave forward to the board of, the select board to appoint for continued work on the Trails Committee.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay, we're gonna take that one off the agenda for another year.
I'll abstain from that one.
We did the design review board.
I think we should do a quick update on that, and then we will no longer need it on the agenda for 495, if that's the next one.
Oh, sure,
Yeah, yeah.
go ahead.
So actually, Muriel and Gary and I attended the state presentation, and they came up with their final alternative, which actually is kind of good news for us, because the final alternative, before it was a 50-foot high highway at the top, and now the current proposal is a 35-foot. So
At the max.
15-foot reduction in the height, so which will be great news for the neighbors around there. What else?
There are public forums coming up. Do we have those dates? I know they're in our packet.
July 25th, so Thursday,
Thursday
Hopkinton Town Hall
At
at 6:30,
in the basement?
basement.
Okay, so this Thursday, the 25th, the town hall basement at 6:30?
Yes.
Public forum for the 495-90 interchange improvements.
And just a quick update, if you look at the intersection from north-south, the northeast quadrant is just going to have a quick access ramp to 495 north. The northwest section will have no ramps at all. The southeast section will have only a quick access ramp. And then the southwest section is gonna have major connections to all couple of them. And they're gonna be utilizing that current toll booth area, because they own all that property, they have access to it, and there's gonna be, routes that are divided, so it won't be a lot of crisscrossing or anything, or weaving, so.
And another thing that came up in the one before you guys attended was that in the toll plaza, that's going to be adjacent to the existing homes in the Roosevelt neighborhood. And they've told us that they are required by federal law to do sound mitigation studies. There's a lot of technical jargon that I didn't completely understand, but it's a certain type of project that requires a certain type of study to assess the noise levels and all that information. So they will be doing that, and that's going to take place during the environmental review, the DEIR portion, which is in like a few months.
That's a very swampy area anyways, too.
I'm sorry?
Cedar Swamp.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's the state's first area of critical environmental concern, yes.
Just a couple of observations from going to that review. Like everything, it's way more complicated than any of us imagine.
Yeah.
And I actually think they've done a pretty comprehensive job of thinking through a lot of different factors. I mean, whether it be the environmental concerns or the construction plan and how they deal with traffic and how they can try to keep as many lanes open as possible, the abutters, the costs. I was personally, I thought they did a very comprehensive job of assessing options. And at the top of their priority was safety, which means eliminating the people merging and people exiting at the same time. And then the other thing I'd say is just from a connector perspective, they said that all of the connectors have roughly, and the connectors themselves have roughly double the capacity of what they're anticipating for the 2040 design process. So I just thought those were.
Yeah, and just to add on to what Gary was saying, the presentation they gave was at the very end was a computerized video. It was really cool. I mean, you were in the car going all these different directions and seeing how everything would look. And one other thing I forgot to mention, at the end of the meeting, after the discussion for that intersection was over, I brought up the possibility of some, commuter type ramps on the 135 and Mass Pike intersection, but that is pretty much, not an option. So, and actually that's a good way for me to summarize here. I think I asked for this to be on our agenda, and I am comfortable now with taking it off because we've done some research, we've seen some presentations, and I'm comfortable taking off. I don't know if anybody else wanted to keep it on or not.
Maybe we can keep it on until after Thursday's meeting at least, and we can, whoever attends that could give us a report back.
They haven't seen it.
Okay, sounds good?
I have a question. Fruit Street Bridge is still replacing?
Yes.
I was just gonna say, Fruit Street is gonna be a bit of a tangle for a while, because one section of the Fruit Street Bridge is going to be undertaken soon.
The railroad crossing
Yes, the railroad crossing.
in Southborough, so it'll be
Right.
shut down.
Completely separate project.
And then,
How do I do that?
and then, this project will start.
At least
So Fruit Street is an open issue, how that's gonna be managed, and how traffic is gonna handle that for a long time.
And John Westerly from the DPW brought up the option of, could there be an emergency access off of 495 onto Fruit Street for emergency purposes, so they wouldn't have to wind and go up Saddle Hill Road, and that was not an option because of the steepness of the grade there.
Yes, but there was some option that is being considered that the fire chief brought up that might allow, as part of the project, completed project, quicker access to that corner.
I misspoke. It wasn't John from DPW. It was Steve from the fire
There
department.
is
He was the one.
There is some piece that they left open to consider, though. I can't remember, I don't remember the details.
I think they kind of shot down the emergency exit onto Fruit Street, but they mentioned they might be able to do it down on Wood Street closer, and I think that Steve didn't see a lot of advantage to that, but they were definitely open. They were definitely open.
Is there a reason they're replacing the Fruit Street Bridge?
Which one?
The
The
Fruit Street
railroad
Bridge? No, the car driving bridge.
It has to be wider for all the new exits into that toll area. exits and entrances.
So they have to widen the road in parts, and where the abutments are doesn't allow them to do that. And then secondly, they're actually, one of the objectives is on the merger, on the ramp on the 495 south. You come down a hill, you got a sharp turn, you gotta go up a hill. They're trying to smooth that out, both in terms of radius and in terms of grade, so that the trucks don't need to slow down as much before they try and merge while going uphill.
But I guess my question is, Fruit Street, where we drive and have homes, is that bridge going to be replaced?
Right.
Yes.
Right, because the road that's passing underneath it is going to be widened.
492 needs to be wider.
The abutments are in locations that don't allow for the necessary improvements.
Not the highway itself, but the exit and entrance ramps are gonna come down further
Yeah.
towards Fruit Street.
Seems like a
Big project.
It's a big project.
I think it was 250 million or something like that.
Well, that's just a guess.
headache.
And to add to that,
Big dig.
they brought up the pipeline that we're gonna review tonight is extending into Westboro, and that's gonna be constructed at about the same time. So the traffic circle in Westboro is gonna be severely affected by that, and then possibly this.
Oh, my goodness.
At the same
I
time,
might move out of Metro.
Within the same window.
I might have to move as well.
It might be time to downsize.
through the chair, did they give a time frame for the Fruit Street Bridge?
They did, and I don't remember
I think it
what
was 2 years.
2 years the bridge would be disrupted.
So there's only, like, I live on that side of town, so there's really only three ways. There's through Westboro Center, there's Fruit Street, and there's Saddle Hill Road to get
Yep,
where you need to go. Or you could backtrack to 495 here.
yep.
But if Westboro Center and Fruit Street Bridge have impacted traffic situations at the same time, Saddle Hill Road is gonna be just way more traffic than that can handle. So I don't know if we can do much, or what we should think about
Certainly.
doing.
Right, certainly more traffic than it can handle safely.
Yes. It's
So-
more of a statement. I don't know how we can impact things in that regards.
So you know, as a resident and as a board, we can always provide feedback. Not every, whatever studies they've done, I think they've done a very credible job. The presentation was excellent, and I don't know if they're also talking to the pipeline people, right? It doesn't hurt that, it doesn't hurt to just make sure that people understand that there's a level of commuting along Fruit Street that I don't know if people really understand, but maybe they do. Maybe they've sat out there and measured it.
There's a lot of ways people that come off Saddle Hill, come onto Fruit Street, 8, 9, 10 cars, and they're all.
Ways will redirect.
So I did bring up at the meeting about if they've done a traffic study on Fruit Street, because they're gonna be working on that bridge, and they said they had not gotten to it yet, but I think it was in the plans.
So it's going to be a big project and a bit of an imposition for quite some time. But hopefully excellent when it's done
In 2027.
in 2027.
I know that timelines change, but what is the timing of the downtown corridor project and in relation to all of this work?
So the downtown corridor project starts next spring.
Okay.
Do you know how long it's predicted to go? I don't off the top of my head know how long it's predicted to go.
At least 2 years.
At least 2 years, so that would, if it was 2 years, it would go until,
I think they said through 2 summers,
2 summers.
at least.
so
Starting in May.
it's starting right after the marathon.
And the Fruit Street project, what did John say, the railroad bridge, when is that starting?
June, I thought he said,
I
right?
thought so too.
So those two might be going out at the same
Practice.
time.
We'll practice.
Yeah.
We'll see how it
And then the
works.
495-90 whole thing,
22 to 27.
okay. Okay, so we may well be done with our downtown first.
Yes, before that project, but not before the railroad bridge. on Fruit
Right,
Street.
yeah.
I don't know if they explained this in the second one, but they said that the 495-90 interchange project will be done in phases to some extent, so it's not like all of it's gonna be impacted, but.
Yeah, but it's
certain
still gonna
issue- right,
impact
we'll have
us
it- It's not
for
gonna just
5
be the
years.
entire intersection, it's gonna be impacted.
Of the options they were considering, this option was trying to think of the words they used, but it was the least expensive, it was the fastest,
Least intrusive.
least intrusive on the environment, and was as good as the others with regards to traffic mitigation. And I think in total, they assessed, I feel like 30-some different options or considerations. They narrowed it down to the top 3, and then this was the clear preferred option of those 3. And they went through a full criteria with a methodology of how this one, both numerically and in their own assessments, how this one bubbled up to the top.
And Representative Carolyn Dykema was there as well.
Yep. So good. Perfect. You know what, Dave, thank you for bringing that up and holding on to that. It turned out to be perfect that we talked about it and you set us up, you teed us up really well on that.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate that. Okay. We did the minutes. What is the process for the review of invitation for bids?
It's just to get your input on the scope. There doesn't have to be any formal process.
So it's not public?
It's not confidential, it's just, no
Not
offense
yet
to
public.
Phil, but if Beta were to go for this contract again, we didn't want to make it seem like they're getting a advanced shot at the contract versus another firm.
Yeah, yeah. I read it today, and I thought it looked good, so I don't have any changes to offer.
I have no comments.
It's in line with what we've done in the past.
Didn't surprise me. Yeah, okay. So, is that all you needed from us?
Yep.
Okay. What about Seaboard Solar preliminary introduction?
So Pedro is here. If you want to present, he was just going to give an introduction.
Perfect.
So this is a solar concept plan that's on the Liberty Mutual site. So he can explain in more detail in the professional office district. He just wanted to give a conceptual overview, 5 minutes, just to introduce the project to you.
Hi, Pedro Rodriguez from Seaboard Solar. We are a real estate developer as well as a commercial solar developer that been doing business in Massachusetts for almost 10 years. We are in the process of buying the Liberty Mutual site. It was brought to us by one of our brokers, not for solar intentions, but mostly for real estate. We are finalizing the deal, and the idea is that we're gonna be buying the entire property, so the building along with the other 2 parcels, plus a small one in Ashland. And we have an idea of what to do with the 50-acre property that is right next to the building. So one of the ideas that we have is maybe doing a commercial solar facility. The plan that I passed around, that one is just looking at maximizing the entire property. That is not what we have in mind. That does not follow the regulations of the bylaw. We understand the frontage needed, the open space regulations. We understand that there are some residents nearby, and we are also looking into reducing the system overall to increase the buffer, to add extra screening, something that the system won't be visible from Franklin Street unless you are already inside the building. My understanding is that 50-acre parcel is divided between the zoning district of the agricultural and also the office, professional offices, which I think that's the zoning district for the Liberty Mutual building. And we're looking to follow the regulations if we do the solar array for the agricultural district, just because it's more restrictive.
Yes, right.
So, for clarification,
Yep.
the front section is the current building or part of it, and the back section is the backwoods, including the test track.
Correct. The idea is that we're going to be using the entrance or the existing driveway that's on the left of the building, and a portion of the driveway will be located where the test drive is right now. So the building, the
It's a
array.
new separate driveway.
Yeah, we'll be using the existing driveway, but then we're going to be extending it into the woods, kind of thing.
I see. So the building is staying, and no solar, you're not putting solar panels also on the roof of the building?
No, this is not feasible for the roof of the building.
Why not? It doesn't,
There's not enough space, and a portion of the building has a lot of equipment, and it's concave too. We looked at it, it's just now.
and the building's gonna be professional uses? You mean like
Yeah,
renting it for
Yeah,
companies?
a professional use. We're speaking to some brokers right now to see what can we, what kind of prospective tenants we can have in the building. So, we're about to sign the contract. We have a due diligence period, and we're just trying to see what we can do. with
It's
the
a great building. I'm glad something good is happening with it.
This is a really nice property.
Question to the chair. So how much total land are you going to be clearing? Or are you proposing that you would clear for this?
We're gonna be, if we use this entire array right here, that will be about 30 acres. That's not what we plan to do. That probably is gonna be reduced to about 20 acres.
20 acres. So it's currently 20 acres of wooded property.
Now, there's currently about 50 acres of wooded property, just in that parcel. There's a little more in the back.
But you would be clearing approximately 20 acres of wooded property.
That is the
for
plan,
this.
Correct.
30.58.
Yeah, 30-foot pine is like the existing design right now, but that doesn't follow all the setback, doesn't follow all the frontage, none of that regulation, so that's gonna be reduced quite a bit.
Is there a reason you didn't initially do it following the setbacks?
It's just the steps that we follow in our companies, that we do the surveys, we send it to the electrical design, kind of see how can we maximize the current property right now without looking at certain restrictions, and then we reduce it according to the regulations and extra according to the neighborhood.
Okay, so we're not even looking at something that meets our bylaws?
No, as you can see, a portion of it.
Okay.
It's just gonna be a lot smaller than that.
Maybe make a quick comment to the chair?
Yes, absolutely.
Question actually first. You say utility pole set up, is that telephone poles you're speaking of, in the very top right?
That will be, yeah, absolutely.
Just so you know, our bylaws require
Underground.
everything underground
Correct.
unless it's a special circumstance, so
Correct.
we feel strongly about that too, just to give you a heads up.
Anybody else have anything quick? It's just a preliminary. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I want to drive on the test track before it's gone.
For sure. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so we still have a few minutes.
Just flying through stuff.
Look at us go. Well, the meeting opened way up, right?
Right.
That's good.
Through the chair?
Yes.
Sorry. I just wanted to request that the next meeting, the one in August, that we do the appointments for zoning advisory committee.
So we did not advertise that yet to see how many
Right.
days we have.
Okay. Yeah, so John has already, given us a heads up that everybody who isn't on a longer term cycle of membership.
Yes,
anyhow,
yeah.
Needs to submit their memo to, if they want to re-up.
Okay.
But we need to advertise for the new,
I think we talked about, do we need to advertise since it's an appointed board by the planning board, but it's more of a designee board?
We
It's
always advertise it in the
Yeah.
past, and just like the selectmen,
Yeah.
we always advertise it at a point. So I think we need to stick to that, yeah.
So many of the current members are liaison members, and the at-large members, I believe, are all on 2 or 3 year terms, and that would be Madhu, Elise, and Carol. But the rest of the members currently, is Rhea an at-large member? I think she was, she chose to be a 1 year. I remember that. We have Ron from the Chamber of Commerce,
So we
myself
don't-
from Planning Board, and
Go ahead.
and then John from the Select Board.
So, yeah, so 4 other boards that appoint, we wouldn't have to advertise.
So I can read through who's up this year. So from Conservation, Ted Barker Hook. The Planning Board rep is Mary. The Board of Appeals rep is Peggy Shaw. The 2 at-large are John Catino and Rhea. And the Chamber of Commerce is Ron. So I believe it would really only be the 2.
Yeah, 2 at large.
2
Right,
at-large.
and
that
we
would
should,
have to get
as a
advertised.
matter of process, we should reappoint Mary from the planning.
Right, but I don't believe we need to advertise.
No, I don't think so
No.
either.
So it would just be advertising for those 2 at-large positions.
Okay. And they are 1-year positions?
No, I believe
Because
they're-
we were starting
I
at
believe they're
different, will
2-year
now be
positions.
2-year
It does
positions?
not say, so I'd have to check.
Yeah, we'll
So I
double
think
check.
we
but I'm
started
pretty
it
sure it's 2.
last year, and so that we would have,
They'd be staggered.
Rotating.
rotating.
Yeah.
We started with 1 year and 2 years, and then they will all go to 2-year positions so that they'll rotate,
Mhm.
right?
Okay, yeah, we can find out. whether
Yeah.
it's-
Yep.
And do we tell the other boards that appoint people? Do we, just like remind them that it,
Yeah, totally.
that,
Send an email.
okay,
Yeah,
okay, that would
totally.
be great if you could do that with all the other boards, because the terms end at the end of August, so we have 1 ZAC meeting in August, and then in September, we have to have our new members,
Okay,
okay?
perfect. And then just as a courtesy, those 2 members know that they are
Yes.
up, so, okay.
Yeah, we
just to make
discussed,
sure.
well, we discussed it at our last meeting, and I've sent out an email, but I can double check.
Yeah, just make sure that they know, so that they
Neither one of
know
them
what
was
they-
present at the meeting, so.
Okay. So, yeah, excellent idea, make sure they know, just as a courtesy, so if they want to continue, they put their names in. Okay.
All right. Thanks.
Perfect. How about this, does anybody have any future agenda items that they would like to add on?
I do.
Yeah.
Just a quick question about sidewalks, I wonder.
Sidewalks.
Yeah.
And do you need anybody here for that?
Nope.
Okay, sidewalks for Dave next time. I like it.
We're getting very full on the August 12th agenda.
No, this is like an item to be discussed at any point. Yeah.
Walk us through the,
It's like
it
a-
seems we have a few minutes, walk us through the 12th agenda as we know it. And only 1 meeting in August, everybody. Keep that thought.
It's almost August.
Wow, it's storming.
Like the thunder for effect on that.
So, yes. So we have the Whisperway applications, and I can go over the proposed plan for that for everybody if you want.
That's a good idea, but list out the agenda and then do that.
Sure. So Whisperway,
Yep,
0 Wood Street, the solar,
yep.
Buckland Leonard, the trails site plan and special permit amendments, 97 South Street minor site plan amendment, and the scenic road application for Saddle Hill Road from DPW and growth study committee interviews and appointments.
That's a big
Start at 6
meeting.
PM.
What's the Saddle Hill thing, real quickly?
So that's, what road, Saddle Hill and what road? Fruit Street. There's, DPW wants to cut some trees down for sightlines.
Okay, thanks.
So John Westerling will.
With all those cars speeding by from ways.
Maybe he wants to build his own access road to 495.
All right, okay, 97 South Street, I know, okay, yes, we have 6 or 7 minutes to give us the quick overview on Whisperway.
So Ron, Muriel, myself, and Dan Hazen met to discuss the project. And after some concerns about the voting and how it's really, he's kind of down to almost the required amount for eligible members. He's considering submitting a new application, the exact same application, but resubmitting it, and then requesting withdrawal at the same meeting for August 12th. Town council has said that that's allowed. So tomorrow is the deadline. He hasn't submitted it, but we're just on today, so hopefully he'll get us something tomorrow to get this in motion. But it's more of an administrative type thing. So what he would have to do is request withdrawal, the submission would go in, and then instead of presenting everything again in excruciating detail, he could, this is what Muriel, I believe, talked about last meeting, or we talked about aside, could just give a quick recap for everybody so all the board members are on top of it and can then participate.
Yes, but I think that he is looking to make minor changes to account for frontage depth issues.
Yes, so he would be submitting the revised plan,
Yes.
but it would be a minor amendment to what is, not officially a minor amendment, but it would be a minor revision to what was submitted previously.
Yeah, so he does have an approach to where we got our as well. So that, if that comes in tomorrow, because that's the deadline, that will happen.
So they're all 20-foot driveways now? Just kidding.
So, just a question for John.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, and then an issue with the solar farm, they provided, and this may have been identified by the board, the parcel that has the equipment that's in the Wood Street Historic District was not actually advertised as part of the project. They only gave us the butters for the larger piece, so they are going to give us an abutters list. We've requested a butters list. We hope they give it to us tomorrow to then re-advertise, and it'll essentially be a new hearing. So it's as if the previous hearing didn't happen.
There is a house that is not on the plan that needs to get on the plan, so their submission should be corrected to have that on there for sure.
That may not be corrected by the submission, but that's something that the board can. I don't know the timeline of when they're going to be able to revise the plans for the submission, since.
I don't either, but a missing house is a missing house.
Right. Is it a missing house or a missing parcel?
It's a house.
So they can add that on and address that.
Well, I don't know if it's it's a house that didn't show up. I don't know the parcel status, to be honest.
So
It's
just
not
going
a
back
huge
this way,
concern.
and given that our August 12th agenda is really full, and given that the deadline to do that is tomorrow, are we under any obligation to keep him on the August 12th agenda if he does that? We are.
Yeah.
I was looking for somebody to get a little bit of relief on that agenda, because that's going to be a tough one for us to get through.
We can do it. Amy, do you have a point, something?
Oh, I can't remember. Well, I will just add that I think the trails is they came to design review board, and it seems pretty straightforward, so I think we can ideally get through that quickly.
97 South Street will be a little bit interesting too, because they need to come to design review board. I don't know if they have talked to anybody.
I don't know what we're gonna do.
Yeah, so we did talk about that, and
Yeah.
I don't know if you had already left, but I had brought up to Jeff, having each design review board individually review the plans and submit comments to the planning board, rather than have the board, as a board itself, submit comments, just because there's no way for them to meet
Yeah.
before then.
Quick description, 97 South Street?
Yeah.
It's a minor site plan amendment, so it's like in biopharmaceuticals or biotechnology is.
Where Lonza was.
Yeah, exactly. Is wanting to come into that building. They want to do facade changes and make 2 new entrances. And then there's also, so it's kind of almost two separate projects. It's the building, and then they want to resurface the parking lot, redo some of the landscaping, and put new light poles in there. So it's not a wholesale change of the parking lot, it's just kind of making it nicer.
But did you say new entrances off the street or no?
2 entrances to the building.
To the building, okay.
So changing the facade of the building to allow for 2 entrances. One of the entrances is going to take away 3 parking spots.
But they have the 3 parking spots to spare. It doesn't take away from their need.
Great, thanks.
So I guess my first thoughts are, I'm not in a real hurry to hurry the process for anybody. It does really feel like it's pretty minor. I would, if we took that approach to let the design review board members each submit directly to us, I don't necessarily have an objection to that. But that, if there's anything that's complicating in that, I think that they need to know that the planning board is gonna want the design review board to sort through their feedback before, I would think, before we made a final decision here. So we can try that. It really is a facade change. It really does feel like something that's minor. It also feels to me like we're stepping outside of the process here. And I just want to make sure we don't step so far outside of the process, we don't do justice to the design review piece. I guess is really what I want to say. I don't know how people feel about the approach. Any objections to that approach?
I guess I just want to make sure it's limited, that we wouldn't be doing this every month for every project.
No, and I would never want to send the message that we were in any way devaluing the design. I know for myself personally, I rely heavily on the design review board's input. So I want to make sure that we're careful as we.
So if we all say we love it on the design review board, then no problem. But if we have differing opinions when we email John our comments.
That's what I'm
okay.
thinking, right? I just, looking ahead, I see that it could be problematic because you won't have had an opportunity to discuss it amongst yourselves, and that really does shortchange your process. So if it's all good, it's all good. If there are issues that need to be resolved, then they'll need to be resolved.
And it also doesn't allow the design review board to go back and forth with the actual applicant.
No, that's right. That's exactly right. Yeah.
And to Gary's point, the DPW scenic road, I've been assured by John Westerling, will take all of 2 minutes.
Oh, that's
So
cute.
hopefully that'll be mitigating to the time of the.
Because he's the tree warden too. We're gonna get a tree warden that's objective and not and impartial for his. I'm just asking.
It's a good thought.
Right? Joe Regan, he's right, we need a tree warden, and we need one fast. All right, I will entertain a motion to open the public hearing for Maspinock Woods Realty Trust.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed, any abstentions? All right, here we go.
I think Joe said we need to treat it.
Good evening. For the record, Peter Byberry with Mr. Wheeler. We were here last time and went through the changes to units 21 and 22, 23 and 24, as well as 31, which is the property on West Union, West Elm, I'm sorry. There were some issues, some questions from people in the nature of overall site conditions, and then the board just kind of wanted to get a sense of what was being done and where it was being done. So the meeting was continued for a site walk, which a couple planning board members are out there with. Out there, we have addressed a number of the landscaping issues and the nature of the erosion, even with the storms that we've had. The overall plan, and I don't know if you got a chance, I have more copies of this in print. If you didn't get those, this is what I emailed today. Everybody got that colored ones?
Ours is black and white.
Oh, yeah, give us the colored version. Email today.
Don't hold back, yeah.
Any reason this wasn't submitted before today?
I'm sorry?
Is there any reason this wasn't submitted before today?
I just got them the end of last week, so I had hoped to drop them off to your office on Friday, but Friday's a tough day, so.
Friday's also past the deadline too, so.
So, none of the landscaping per se, from the viewpoint of the road, landscaping is in. That is all anticipated to start September and to hopefully be finished up. What we had said last time, we would present you with a landscaping plan as you come down the road to buffer the existing houses, the first couple of existing houses on the right-hand side with units 21 through 24. So that's what you're seeing there. It's a use of tall London plane trees as well as large arborvitaes. In addition, that plan also depicts that the same London will be planted across the street, so you'll have double protection. So from the front door of the properties across the street, of course, they're set back a minimum of 20 feet. Then you got the road, then you got 20 feet before the decks on the buildings that we're talking about. So you got at least 60 feet from structure to structure. So you'll have two series of landscapings, one on each side of the road, to buffer the units of the backyards as well as the front.
Quick question, the arborvitaes are deer resistant?
Yeah.
They make an arborvitae now that's deer resistant that most of the developers are putting in. Just want to make sure you use that and not the.
I'll look into that, yes.
Thank you.
I would say to the chair, I think on the sidewalk I went individually, and the original layout with the middle units where they were diagonal, I think fits better in what my view of this property could be. Looking at it now, I think that the sideways component on paper looks like it will fit, but I think I'm looking at it, imagining it, and I think maybe it might be too crowded in the middle section. And just kind of hoping that these trees will add the full Maspinock Woods effect that you're going for. I'm just a little bit concerned about too much overcrowding, but I trust that, looking at this today at the beginning of the meeting, it's a lot more trees than I thought would be there, so that, to me, that means that there'll be more breaking up the view from house to house and trees. So I'm hoping this is for the best. I'm wishing you luck.
John, do you have anything that you want to say about it before we?
So the main comment I had was about the issue that the planning board heard from one of the current owners. I don't know if that's something we want to discuss at the moment, or if it's.
So I think that the issues that the current owners have are not necessarily the purview of this board. However, I do appreciate that some interaction and effort has been made to satisfy the needs of the current owners in there. But yeah, I don't think that we need to.
That's an issue with the director of municipal inspections, and then after that, it's a private issue between the owner and the developer.
All right, so I'm sorry, I'm reading actually what's in front of us. So do we have two actions, right? It's the proposed amendments to the special permit are for the internal units.
It is, one, the exception of the change to all the units, and then for the property on West Elm, a waiver of the setback for, this special district, which is supposed to be, I believe it's 100. You already granted a waiver for the existing, but now we're moving it a little bit. So we need a waiver for the location of the dwelling at West Elm.
All right, those are two separate actions, or they're all in one?
I think the board typically has treated the change in the footprints as one approval, and then the waiver would be the second.
Phil, did you have any comments, because you just saw the landscaping plan on the fly?
I don't have very little information.
All right, so shall we start around? I'll start to my left. How about that? Shall we start around? Patrick, do you have any questions in particular on these?
No, I was on that site walk with you, and
Yeah,
just seeing this landscape layout, I think that's going to address some of the concerns the neighbor had across the way of looking into her windows. So I don't have any big concerns about it.
Are we also discussing the 5 West Elm?
Yes.
Okay, so just to clarify for everyone, I did drive there and walk around a little bit on my own because I wasn't able to make the site walk. And with the landscaping, I do certainly think it's all pretty tight in there, but with the landscaping that's proposed, it does look like it would be adequate within the development itself for the new units 21 through 24. For the 5 West Elm, I'm concerned about the location and the fact that a previous waiver, I believe, waiver other than special permit, was granted for the preservation of the historic structure on site. I don't personally have any objection to the historic structure being changed out for a new structure. based on what we've heard of the level of maintenance of the old structure. But we do need to, I think, look at the setbacks. And, you know, because it's a new structure, it's a new situation.
I agree.
No comment.
I'm more leery of the 5 West Elm Street section, but like I said earlier, the main section, the middle section, the trees, the bushes in between the trees will help the neighbors, will help the abutters. So I'm thinking this should be okay. But I think I'd like to hear more discussion about the 5 West Elm Street portion.
I don't think I have anything to add. Or did we determine it's not an historic structure, or is it, sorry, is it more than 75 years, or it's less than 75?
Can you just refresh my memory and the units currently in the development? It's going from what square footage currently in the plan to the new proposed square footage per unit? What's the increase in square footage?
The existing square footage of the existing house?
No, not the house,
The internal units.
the internal units. Is any square footage changing?
21, 22, 23.
Yes. What am I looking at? The biggest change is the unit 24. That's the one that pushes more towards West Elm, towards that open space, and that's a total increase of 226 square feet. The other unit closest to everybody else is actually a reduction of 27 square feet.
Okay.
So the overall, the average of the units as now approved is roughly 2,100 square feet. In unit 23 is 20,080. In unit 24 is 2333.
Okay, so
they're within the average of what's taking place out there.
it's not like one is jumping up 50% bigger. And on 5 West Elm, is there any new information besides from the Board of Health or the Conservation Commission related to 5 West Elm?
The only comments we received in the either the Board of Health or the Conservation Commission deals with 31, which is the one on West Elm.
Okay.
We're actually meeting with the Conservation Commission tomorrow night on that. We did get comment from the Board of Health, just from the viewpoint of the septic system and making sure that the existing septic system, which we plan to use, is still capable of supporting the number of bedrooms in the house we've got. But beyond that, there's been nothing.
So the concern with 5 West Elm is that originally was going to be the driveway entrance to that neighborhood. The driveway entrance got moved. I wasn't on the planning board at that time, but I'm leery of changing, like that was originally said to not increase the footprint of that home.
Mm-hmm.
But that current home is in disrepair. It's totally not, you're not salvaging that home. I get that. What is the impact, if it was just rebuilding the current home and the current footprint? Is it just basically leveling it, destroying the foundation and starting over? Or is it?
Well, I mean, theoretically, you could do that. I mean, the amount of money to do that wouldn't make any sense, and then it wouldn't have the appearance of this. What we're looking to do and talk to the Conservation Commission is, if you've been either on the site or by the site now, the whole front of it, all the way up to the house, is basically cleared out. So the intent is to have only a driveway and a little bit of lawn next to the driveway, but to kind of restore everything on the right-hand side and some on the left, so that when we're done, you'll see more vegetated, natural look than what's out there now. So we're trying to work with the Conservation Commission to provide more environmental conservation measures, because when you look at the lot now to the right-hand side, there's a vernal pool off to the right.
Yep.
So we're kind of restoring that all in a natural condition, which doesn't exist today.
And the square footage of 5 West Elm Street that's proposed?
I'm sorry?
The square footage of the 5 West Elm Street, the proposed square footage?
It would be one of the Emily plans, so
Will they
it would
put
be
another
20,
condo?
20,
Yep,
20,
yeah.
20,
That, so it will look like one of the
it'd be
units inside.
approximately 2452.
Little over 2,400.
Approximately 2,400 square feet.
Okay, so it's gonna appear as a single-family home, but it'll be slightly larger than any of the,
It's the same size as one of our units. We've
One of the other
converted-
Emily's that the board had previously approved.
Yeah, we converted one of the units to a detached unit. So we made some architectural changes since it's not connected to a unit, but it's essentially the same size and space.
okay.
What we had to do was take that blank wall and create architectural features for it, working through the design reward committee. That's what we ended up doing, and shifted the entry to the other side to break up that, what used to be as part of a duplex unit, a blank wall.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Through the chair, going back to that, can you, so is that, can you remind me, is that gonna have any connectivity to the rest of the development, or is it only gonna be
It's
off of
a
Westmount?
unit in and of itself. It's still, again, as we went through, for some reason, it was part of the condominium, but it doesn't share any of the roadway. Behind the house is the existing septic system, which will remain, and then there's wetlands and woods that'll remain. So there'll be no connection between the main development
So-
and this lot.
So will they be part of the condo association, and will they be?
It's required to be as it stands right now, and that's one of our issues we have to deal with the condo. Because technically, and back to answer one of the other questions, the setback of the proposed structure meets all the requirements if it wasn't for this development. So it meets all the setbacks requirements applicable to the district that it's in, so it can stand on its own as a single-family house lot. But again, technically, it was created as part of the condominium back when the thing was approved in 2005, 2006.
So I understand that, but then why not just split out that parcel and develop it as a single-family home?
Well, we have to deal with all the condominiums and everything.
You're telling me it's not a condo?
I'm sorry?
It's a single-family, it's a individual structure.
Yeah, I don't.
So if I may try and clarify, the parcel itself was included in the special permit that granted the approval for the condo development.
Right.
So it's tied into that, so they're developing it as if it was a single-family lot, but it is technically part of that special permit.
Okay, so they can't split it out?
They can,
We have to-
it would take legal.
We have to come back and ask board for an amendment to pull it out. At this time, we're not doing that because, again, we've got to get approval from the condominium folks before we can pull it out.
So we'd have a couple more steps before we could accomplish that.
Thank you.
Frank?
Technically, there is a walking path from that property through to the back of the property.
I couldn't hear you, I'm sorry.
Technically, there is a walking path behind 5 West Elm Street to the back of the property to the...
Yeah, none of the nature of the walking path or anything else is being impacted by any of this.
Right. So it is part of the same system.
They would have the benefit of using that path, yes, but, I mean, to ask them to pay full condo fees just for the benefit.
That's your business,
Yeah,
right,
that's our issue.
So I'm going to be candid, I'm struggling a little bit on two fronts. First, the original decision mandated, allowed for the waivers so that that house would stay a house. And I am a little bit reluctant to rethink a previous planning board decision, understanding now that the road doesn't go through there and things have changed. I'm especially personally reluctant to add to the waivers to make the setbacks even less compliant. And I'll tell you from an aesthetic perspective, I'm not sure I love one of the condo units out there. I think that that's probably why the previous planning board wanted it to preserve the house. I don't know. We can't go back and rethink and re-know what they want. I don't think we can act on the landscape plan that we saw for the first time being passed out at the meeting. So we're going to have to have you back, but shall we talk about the waiver and at least take a vote on the waiver so that you have that piece. So I am at the outset not in favor of increasing the setback waiver amount. I don't think it's in keeping with the decision. I think it's rethinking a previous decision, and it doesn't preserve the house.
From the viewpoint of the impact, I think the existing building is like 40 feet, and we're asking it to be 25. And that, again, that whole side will maintain vegetation. The next house is a series of wood and everything else. So there's no impact to the abutter next door, at least in our opinion, from the viewpoint of the granting of that waiver.
Yeah, I get you. I understand your position.
Do you want to go ahead or me too?
So we're going to move forward with, is the question to move forward with just voting on the internal changes?
On the waiver, on the waivers that they need. Is that, from a process perspective, is that helpful? We found it helpful before.
Yep. So
The internal changes to 21, 23?
No, that includes this,
Okay.
that just came.
Yeah, so
we'll have to continue that.
we're basically saying we're waiting on everything.
But we're discussing the setback waiver.
But the setback waivers
Okay.
we could talk about and decide on.
So I'm inclined to grant the setback waiver. It meets the setback criteria for the district it's in, the West Elm Street, correct? It just doesn't meet the setback criteria for the development, right? Like, I think right now the house there is an eyesore, it's falling apart. It's not historically significant. I mean, I think it would be an improvement to build the condo, you know, I know it's the condo style, but I think it would still be an improvement to the street. So I'm inclined to grant the setback waiver.
It's I know it's not our purview for conservation or Board of Health, but like to decrease any type of setback in that so close to the backside of Lake Maspinock, I'm not a fan, not in favor.
I mean, if it would make any sense, we could certainly come up with a landscaping plan for that side to show you that the setback of the house with the landscaping won't impact anything on that other side. If the concern with a setback waiver is impact to the abutting property.
So I think what I'm struggling with is why do we need to decrease the setback?
Just from the viewpoint of the wetlands on both sides of the lot impact where you can put it. So there's a series of wetlands on the right-hand side, so we're trying to keep out of those buffer for purposes of the Conservation Commission, which forces the house farther that way. And again, what we used as a design standard was the setbacks for that lot within that district, which we meet.
Do we even have a lot plan that we can look at for this discussion?
Do we have a what?
Like a lot plan of the layouts of the building or anything?
I don't know if it's back, I don't think it's in this packet. It was in the last one.
It was in,
It
I had to
was
look it up. It was
way
the
back.
The June 10th?
We had a conceptual meeting with the Conservation Commission, and we got feedback that they would prefer to see a home further away from.
If you're gonna tear down the house anyway, they would prefer that you moved it out.
Yeah, and we're gonna meet with that tomorrow. We followed up with the conceptual discussion by filing a notice of intent with the plan that we've shared with you, and the hearing with the Conservation Commission is tomorrow, but the setback was the location of the home with requiring the setback waiver was based on feedback that we got from the Conservation Commission in a conceptual discussion.
So again, this is the 50-foot buffer there that we have to stay out of, so you can see we're about as close to that as we can get with the house, which again forces everything that way. The property line here, big stand of trees there, vernal pool up in this area, so this will always remain vegetated. And right now, the tree line is somewhere in there, so this whole area, again, if you've been out by the site, is basically open and ground. So the ultimate plan is to, make that return to some extent in its natural, a small land area, lawn area, and a small lawn area here, let this return to its
hold on one second.
Wetland vegetation.
I'm going to ask Phil for his input.
So that was my thought, was is that if there's any benefit relative to wetlands, maybe, keep increasing the distance to wetlands and being able to restore some of the areas. It looks, is this a lot?
Yeah, it's all open up in front, exactly.
Yeah. So
And you can see the existing home in the back that's further into the buffer zone
Yeah.
on the plan. This is the existing home, and we're pulling it further out of the buffer zones by moving it forward.
and it would also reduce the amount of pavement for a driveway.
Right.
So, from an environmental standpoint, I think this is a better option.
So through the chair, could you summarize your concerns again with the picture there, just so we understand?
With the picture there. So, so my concerns were increasing the setback relief from previous decisions. Just from the perspective of just sort of really rethinking a previous planning board's decision. So as it's stated in the decision, it was, the setbacks were waived to enable preservation of the house.
Right.
I don't know if at the time they thought that was the most environmentally friendly proposal, I don't know.
But through you, do we have it in our jurisdiction to control whether the house is demolished or not? I mean, that's kind of up to them with their property, right?
Well, it's in the decision that it's gonna be preserved.
The original one, yes.
Yeah, I mean.
We required that they preserve it?
No,
Or
I
we
think it was
said-
saying.
Gave them the option to preserve
No,
it.
but it was so it could be preserved?
Right.
Why was that?
Right.
I don't know. So they got relief so that the house could be preserved. I don't know.
So are we still rotating?
Sure.
I'm leaning towards a no. The same reasons you were outlining. I was here some of those votes on the Conservation Commission and then later on the Planning Board. One aspect that we're not really looking at is that you knew what you were buying, the previous developer knew what he was doing, the property was there, we knew about the property, we knew about the wetlands, and these are things that we were working with together over the years. I just would like more information to come from the Conservation Commission because I know one of the major responsibilities of the Conservation Commission is to look at, does this improve the property, improve the wetlands, improve the neighborhood? And maybe it does. I would just like to have a little bit more information, have them make their decision to help us make a more informed decision.
On the issue with this, would it make more sense until we figure out exactly what the Concom is doing, and then we come up with a full landscaping, buffering, and restoration plan that you can look at?
Yeah. I am,
Do the other units tonight,
Yeah.
presumably.
I am also, it's good information to know that it's environmentally better from the engineer's perspective. I don't know what anybody was thinking about wanting to preserve that house. I would not argue for preserving that house myself, personally. I do think that it's a little, that having a standalone condo unit out there is a little awkward. You know, it doesn't fit in, it doesn't, for whatever reason, with the way it ended up being built and designed, it doesn't fit in.
I looked at the set of minutes on way back, it's really nondescript. Neither of us were around at the time they
We're all
granted
new
that
to
approval,
this.
so
That's awesome.
I can't comment.
All right, well, so it's an open question. So yes, it makes more sense, I think, to have it fully landscaped and the Concom weighing in on it, from my perspective. Are people comfortable voting on the changes to the internal units?
Just a quick question. I do have a comment about trees. I don't know if it really, the existing, does that relate to that or?
You can make your comment on trees.
Okay.
I think we have to look at this.
Yeah, this would be quick because I know there's more
later.
important things
Yeah.
than trees to talk about. But I did confirm that the green giant is deer resistant, just online, I checked it.
great.
However, I had a question about London plane tree because I've never heard of that before, and I don't know if we have any in town. And it says that it's a huge tree that can have a 10-foot wide trunk. So I would suggest that maybe just regular maples or something like that just, you might wanna look into the size of that tree.
Okay.
London plane, it's like a sycamore, it gets really big.
Nice. Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
That's awesome.
You take over the houses in the street too.
300 years, could be really nice.
Just a comment, thank you.
Yeah, I would tend to trust their knowledge about looking at this plan. If there's a 10-foot wide tree trunk, it's not gonna be 10 feet wide for, like you said, 300 years, so it's.
Yeah.
Wikipedia is always correct.
Is that where you were looking?
Of course.
All right, so John, go ahead, Gary.
No, it's just going back to your question, Mary, about whether we're comfortable on the proposed site plan changes. I tend to agree with you. For me, it's a pet peeve of mine when stuff comes in last minute, because, you know, case in point, Dave's doing, you know, research on his iPad or on his phone to try and do this real time, and I don't like that. Although what I'm torn about is that also having just driven out to the site today, that middle section's a big eyesore, and at least for the residents, I like the idea of trying to get this moving forward so they can finish the neighborhood. I've lived in a neighborhood under construction, and you know, to me, there's some benefit there. So I don't know. I think I'm okay moving forward with voting on it, but I just want to continue to emphasize to any applicants that this stuff needs to be
We'll make sure you
submitted
get
per
things
the
well in
timelines.
advance.
What's that?
We'll make sure you get things well in advance.
Thank you.
So, and I'll just make the point, until we draw the line,
I know.
it'll never be there.
I know.
Okay, so, what's the board's, let me entertain a motion to open the public hearing and continue it for the LNG line replacement until the conclusion of this particular hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed, any abstentions? Okay. So, how do we feel?
I think the interior, we could vote on,
I do too,
despite the,
despite the landscape
despite the
coming in.
last night, yeah.
All right. I will have a tantrum if it happens again. All right, so John, help me out. Where are we for the decision criteria for the internal units?
So that's a site plan?
Is that page?
On the memo?
Page 5?
Page 5, correct.
Okay. So,
Bottom of the page.
yep. For the site plan approval criteria, before the planning board may approve the site plan, it shall determine each of the following: that the plans provide adequately for convenience and safety of vehicular and pedestrian movement within the site and in relation to adjacent streets, property, or improvements. I think we can agree that that condition is met, or criteria is satisfied. That the plans assure the adequacy of the methods of disposal of sewage, refuge, and other wastes, and the methods of drainage for surface water and seasonal flooding, if any. That was the Board of Health's approval. They're comfortable with it, right? They had no issues with it. All of the provisions of this chapter, including 210, 72A and B, have been complied with, and all necessary special permits and variances have been granted from the Board of Appeals. That doesn't apply, I don't think, or has it's happened, that there's nothing new about that. If the planning board does not make all of the above determinations, it shall deny the application, stating its reasons for such denial. Okay. Pursuant to 21075B, the approved garden apartment site plan may be modified or amended by the planning board on its motion, or as with this case, upon application by the developer. If the board determines that such modifications are significant, it shall hold a public hearing, blah, 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 blah. All right, so I will entertain a motion to approve the site plan changes for units number, help me, 21, 22, 23, and 24.
And just one process question. Do we need to acknowledge that we do not deem these changes significant?
No, it's been advertised, just in case. So it's really more of a notification issue.
So moved for those 4 units.
I'll second that.
Hold on, any further discussion? The only thing I didn't do was ask if there was any members of the public here that wanted to speak to this. All right, seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. How about for the special permit for the standalone unit?
My preference is to wait until after Concom. I'd like to see more details, and I'm just inherently, I understand your point, but I don't like the idea of effectively a single standalone condo that's on its own, and
Okay, we can
when we're making additional waivers, makes me nervous when we start granting additional waivers, so.
Yeah, the waivers deal with this unit 31, so, we're asking
Right.
you to put all that
Right.
off till we.
Right,
Yeah, sorry.
right, yep. That's 31 is 5 West Elm.
Okay.
So they're receptive to it, so sounds fine.
Okay, we don't need to extend a decision, we just need to continue the hearing?
For a special permit, we didn't really, the special permit site plan, that wasn't really advertised correctly.
You did, yeah.
Because you submitted that later, but didn't really apply for it because it didn't get all the information.
I think it said, if you need time, we'll give you an extension on it.
Probably
Figure it
extension will
out.
be
An extension on what, help me
a
out?
decision
For the site plan?
for 5 West Elm.
Oh, for 5 West
There
Elm.
was a change to the
Special
site plan.
Mhm.
Okay.
everything, then a special permit came into play.
Okay, so we'll extend it at the same time. When will we move the hearing?
It looks like September 9th.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to continue the special permit application to September 9th, and the decision are you saying there's a site plan piece to it as well?
Change to the site plan, but it's also a special permit because of the waiver and this.
For unit 31, but we can do the decision on the other changes, right?
Yes, yeah. So, and the decision to September 15th? Is that
We
Right.
usually do it a week after, right?
It would be the
So it'd be
16th.
16th? Thank you, my math was bad. I only got a math degree back in the day, no worries. All right, can I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, September 9th it is, thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for your time.
All right, we are now. We are on the LNG line replacement.
John?
Do we have folks from the,
Just gonna run to the bathroom while they get set up.
yeah,
Yeah, we need to move that from
The zoning on the Maspinock, which was garden apartment?
yeah, previous to the moratorium.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, while you guys get set up from the LNG, we're gonna take a 5-minute break.
Sounds good.
You what?
Now you have to give it back.
I'll sit on the table.
Probably not. Needs to go on this one. Needs to go on this computer. Do you have a flash drive?
My laptop too.
I don't. Sorry. I can give you my information if you.
That's fine, yeah.
Which one is it? PDF.
He's a comedian and they ask questions in between.
PowerPoint on this computer.
He's a comedian and they ask questions in between.
We do.
How do you hear him though?
We're
There's-
moving
they're
away
written
from
down.
Microsoft,
Oh, they
so
are.
some computers.
If they're not, I just guess.
As long as you don't use a lot of snails.
What's that?
You need anything else?
I think they're scheduled.
How's your son doing in Scotland?
Oh, yeah, Wales, but.
Wales?
Yeah, no, he really liked it. He's home for the summer, but going back for the fall.
When does he leave for school again?
September 15th, I think we got the ticket.
Late, okay.
Yeah, yeah, it's a different schedule.
Thursday, Thursday, they have a planning board.
I'm gonna just recommend we wait for Kobe and, Kobe's back.
Fans slow down.
Oh, you turned him
Was it
down.
making noise?
Sounds like a helicopter.
Oh, bummer.
Kobe, do you know if we're gonna need to move from, there was some discussion that Norman was gonna need us to move our meetings because people were parking in the.
I haven't heard any more.
Let me ask John.
Maybe we can call in a complaint to Norman anonymously and then we'll have to know.
So
Right.
John, are we still scheduling our meetings for this meeting then? Where there was some, okay,
I haven't heard anything from Norman about moving to the library other than that one comment.
one time, okay.
But actually, that brings up a good point. Elaine had said that there is an issue with the elevator, and there's some plans to fix it. There's no timetable as to when that's going to happen, but when that does happen, all the meetings in this building are going to have to take place on the ground floor or in a different building. But that's all we know about that right now.
For accessibility issues.
Accessibility issue. Yeah.
Sure.
Did you say library was an option?
The library is an option.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
And that's where we've been told we may have to start meeting, but haven't gotten any actual.
Let me ask this, is it as easy or not for HCAM to cover us at the library?
It's easier to cover you from HQ.
All right, that wasn't the question, just so you know.
The library's fine, the downstairs basement's fine,
Okay.
but just due to,
Do you want to just contemplate moving to the library?
Sure.
the library doesn't have much room.
Which room would we be in the library?
Oh, I was thinking it would be the big
I
hall,
don't know either.
but
The conference.
would it be the big hall, of the old church? Or we don't know.
Usually it's conference room. That's where they have
Well, that's small,
the
okay.
60-inch TV.
That's tiny.
That would be cool.
I'm not sure that works for us.
No, that would be too small.
I can talk to Norman and
All
Elaine.
right, just find out. I guess we would be amenable to moving if it was a space
Yeah,
that
that's
worked.
about it, it is.
I think HCAM might be the most.
Yeah, it makes me sick.
The lights.
No, it's the cleaning products.
Would there be any possibility of changing that, I wonder? Or,
The cleaning products, it made me cough, cough, cough. For a year and a half, I coughed on this board. Done.
That's true.
so the senior center is an option, I guess?
Yeah,
too.
senior center. I just think it's the time of day too. I think they go through and clean and it just triggers me. I don't know. That's my guess anyway. I also, I work during the day in shelters too, so I'm constantly exposed and that just put me over the top. I think. All right, I lost my page here. So to the applicant, go ahead please and introduce yourselves and your application.
My name is Richard Paquette. I'm with TRC, and I'm here tonight on behalf of Eversource Energy for the transfer line replacement project. And we have submitted a application for stormwater management permit and earth removal permit.
Sean Berthium, Eversource Energy, project engineer.
Matt Waldrop with Eversource Energy. I'm a senior environmental specialist.
Okay. Go ahead and introduce your project in general.
Thank you. Members of the board, we have a short PowerPoint presentation that we could throw up on the screen, if
All right,
that's
just so you
okay.
know, we see it behind you too at the same time. So we're not ignoring your presentation.
All right, you got a bigger screen too. So I'll start off by giving you an overview of the project in its entirety, and then we'll kind of focus down on what we have before you tonight. So it's the Hopkinton-Ashland Transfer Line Replacement Project. The project is a pipeline replacement, and the existing transfer line is located in Hopkinton and Ashland. And the transfer line has been in place since the late 1950s. It's a 6-inch, early 1950s, thank you, Sean. It's been in place since that time within an existing easement. The purpose of the project is to replace or basically increase the diameter of the existing line. It's a 6-inch diameter line, and the proposal is to replace that with a 12-inch diameter line. The actual transfer line starts at the Wilson Street Gate Station in Hopkinton and ends at the Pond Street Gate Station in Ashland. There are 2 segments of 12-inch pipe on either end of the transfer line, and the center piece, if you will, and the majority of the transfer line is 6-inch diameter. So there's an existing pressure drop that is in the system right now. So the purpose of the project is to alleviate that pressure drop, thereby improving reliability, and which basically will serve the greater Framingham area for gas distribution. So the entire project length is 3.7 miles. That includes the portion in Hopkinton and Ashland. The actual length in Hopkinton is about 1.1 miles from start to finish. Just a few other little facts. Can you go to the next slide, John? Actually, one more. Yeah.
One more?
Yeah. Sorry about that. So the slide that you're looking at now provides you with some of the specifications of the line. As you can see, its maximum operating pressure is 450 pounds per square inch, and its maximum allowable pressure is 800. Thanks. The construction for the project, and I'll get into a little bit more of that in a few other slides, is phased out over the course of 5 years with the proposal to construct about 4,000 feet of the segment each year during the summer construction season. So basically starting in 2020 and being fully in service by 2024 in Ashland. And the proposal is to construct from west to east, so starting in Hopkinton and ending in Ashland. So as I mentioned to you before, there's about 1.2 miles in Hopkinton. It's an existing pipe that's there now. The easement itself varies. There's 2 widths depending on where you are. There's a 20-foot wide width and a 30-foot wide width, and I'll show you from some additional slides on where that is. So this is strictly a pipe replacement, so there's no above-ground facilities proposed, like metering stations, things like that. There are 2 roads crossed in Hopkinton. One is the Legacy Farms Road North, and the other is Cross Street. And there's approximately 10 landowners crossed by the existing easement in Hopkinton. So this project is subject to review by multiple state agencies and federal agencies as well. It's being reviewed by the Energy Facilities Siting Board, and familiar with that process, is a whole siting board review that occurs with the filing of a petition. That process has been underway now for over almost a year, about. There are also other permits that we're seeking as well, both at the state level and at the local level. As part of the outreach for the project, there's been a number of open house community meetings as well as meetings with town officials when the project was kicked off back in 2017 and then even into 2018, where the open houses, we basically had open houses in both Hopkinton and Ashland and notified abutters and landowners to basically educate them and inform them and answer any questions about the project as well. And then as well, we've had a number of meetings with state agencies such as the DEP, Department of Conservation Recreation, the standard permitting agencies for the project. This slide just shows you some of the permits and approvals that we're seeking as far as the environmental review of the project goes. From the Army Corps of Engineers down to the Hopkinton Conservation Commission, we've actually been in front of them already and had received an order of conditions for the project. And we're here tonight for the stormwater management and the earth removal permits.
We don't have the scenic road in front of us yet?
No, you don't. I did file that, but our abutters list expired. So we're gonna be bumped to the next meeting, I believe, is.
Still haven't gotten that yet. I don't even have an application. I spoke to Kate and pointed it out, sent her a blank, but I haven't.
Okay, so we'll follow up then, okay. But, and back to your question, there's one scenic road cross street that the existing easement crosses just north of Franklin Road. This slide just gives you a sense of the schedule. Like I mentioned to you before, construction segments 1 and 2, which are the first 2 years of the project, are in Hopkinton. This slide gives you a sense of where it occurs. So we're on the eastern side, east central side of Hopkinton. If you look on the left-hand side, you'll see the 2020 construction area. That beginning of that orange line is where the project begins to the west of Legacy Farms Road North, and it'll extend to the east across that road through properties owned by Liberty Mutual Insurance, across Cross Street, and then across property now owned by Hopkinton Area Land Trust, and then some other residential properties before it enters the town of Ashland, north of Franklin Road.
On this slide, where are your 6-inch pipes and where are your 12-inch pipes?
So on this slide, let's see.
They can't see them.
They can't see
You
them.
can't see it there?
Oops. All right.
They will both be located within the same existing easement bounds.
Yeah, I know. I'm just starting from where does the 12 inches end and
Oh, I'm
the 6
sorry.
inches start?
So Sean, it'd be right at the, I guess they would see it on the left-hand side, is it?
That's correct.
Where that dotted white line is at the.
Is that what it is?
To the orange line, is that correct?
That's correct. That would be at
Is that what it is?
That's
Okay.
that's where the 12-inch section ends,
Okay.
and then it goes continues to the west to our Wilson Street gate station.
So that,
Okay.
yeah, that's the eastern end, of the western end you can't see, that's all the way at the other end of the project. National.
Right.
And under Legacy Farms North Road, the gray is already 12, is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
Okay.
We had had conversations with the developer that this project was forthcoming, but the active construction wouldn't be done in time for some final landscaping and paving operations. So we put a piece there to not have to go back and rip that up.
We did check those areas significantly for any wetland resource areas or buffers and found that there was no Concom jurisdiction for that one piece. So that was heavily coordinated with the town.
Through the chair, how many wetlands does the easement cross?
I believe the total count is about 5 wetlands. And I have some slides showing the plan, so I can give you some more detail. But there's a wetland system that's associated primarily with the pond that's on the Liberty Mutual property to the west of Cross Street and north of that facility. And so there's a wetland system associated with the drainage with that pond. And then on the east side of Cross Street, there's additional wetlands, located between Cross Street and the end of the line in Ashland.
But you said, I think you mentioned that Concom's already reviewed?
Yes.
We have those conditions.
Yeah, that's correct.
Sorry about that, go ahead.
No problem. If I could add one thing, the reason it's taken so long to come before the board is we actually didn't think we were gonna be tripping the thresholds for soil disposal, and, what was the trigger for the stormwater permit? Is that the?
It's an acre.
The acre. We were kind of right on the fence, and we were trying to think, should we go ahead and think that we're going to be under the threshold, or should we go ahead and file and make sure that if we did pass them later, that we would have approval? So we made the decision to ultimately come in before the board and get that authorization. So better safe than sorry.
So just to give you a sense of what the construction would look like, I put this slide in here just to give you a cross-sectional view of the easement. This particular example is a 30-foot wide easement where we would be digging a trench about 2.5 feet wide, about 5 feet deep, because when it's backfilled, the pipe will have 3 feet of cover over the top of it as backfill material once it's placed in the trench. And then the spoiled material from the trench would be temporarily side cast along the edge of the trench within the easement itself. So Eversource is not looking to get any temporary construction workspace easements outside of the existing easement. The plan is to do everything within the existing easement from a construction standpoint. And this is just an additional zoomed-in view, just showing the trench and the pipe. The green circle in the middle would be where the pipe sits, related to the other, the trench width and depth.
Sorry if I made a question on this. The existing 6-inch pipe is staying in place, correct?
Correct.
So where is that in this drawing?
It's not shown in this particular cross-section, but Sean can talk more about it.
Yeah, this detail is just to depict the excavation for the new pipeline. The existing portion would be to either side of this trench. We may have a detail coming up further in the presentation that might depict that better. If not, that is something we can provide to show you where that would be in conjunction with our construction.
What is the material of the pipe that's being left, the 6-inch pipe?
Steel.
Steel.
Sorry.
Nope. So the 6-inch pipe is...
I'm sorry, did you finish your presentation?
No, there's
Okay.
a few more
Why don't we
slides.
just do it as a process? That's okay, that's okay. Why don't just, finish the process and then I've done the same thing. I've interjected questions.
No, questions are fine.
Yeah, so the next few slides, I just was going to just take you down the easement, but it's kind of tough to really appreciate it from looking at the screen right here. But these are the drawings that were submitted with the application. I highlighted in yellow on the slide the actual existing easement, which again is the construction workspace. So the top band, that's where it starts on the left-hand side. And runs across a cart road towards Legacy Farms Road north. And that actually, the second band shows the existing crossing that's there now. So this photo here just shows you, this is where the easement begins, where those stakes are, is where the project's generally going to start and head to the east, just so you can kind of see what it's looking like out there.
This would be looking towards Legacy Farms Road.
Exactly. So this is east, looking towards the east. This is actually the existing crossing of Legacy Farms Road North, where the pipe runs across right towards the tree line. So once it makes across that road, it heads down a slope and it follows the existing easement into the woods. And this shows, you can see on that second band where the easement juts out, it transitions to a 30-foot wide easement from a 20-foot wide easement as it makes its way onto the Liberty Mutual property. And this photo just shows you the condition of the easement. You can kind of see the cleared open area through the woods where the stakes are. That's the center line. Again, just more of that as it's moving through the woods within the easement. As we start to head across the Liberty Mutual property, you start to make a general transition downhill, and that's where we start to pick up some drainage within the easement and some wetland areas, intermittent streams, and basically all this, the water is moving down towards the pond that lies kind of at the bottom of that basin there. This is just another photo in that area. At this point, we get down to the pond, and we noted in our discussions with the Conservation Commission that the water level here does fluctuate. We've been out there in 2017. It was totally dry in that area, and then subsequent to that, we were out last year, and it was flooded back up again. I believe the pond was used for a test track that was over there.
I apologize, I have to interrupt you. But we're going to continue in 2 minutes. I need to open the public hearing for 9 B Street and address the withdrawal that was requested by the applicant for 9:30. So I'll entertain a motion to open the 9 B Street special permit hearing.
Is it a combination motion where it's opened and accepted?
Can we do it all at the same time and accept the withdrawal without prejudice?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Just a brief discussion.
Yeah, of course.
I had heard from someone on the Historical Commission that they had felt that we were not very receptive to their plan, and that's why they were going to go another route. And I didn't remember that that was the case, but so anyway, I'm disappointed to hear that they're withdrawing. I was really hoping they'd preserve the historic structure.
They intend to, I've been told, John, that they intend to preserve the structure, the historical face?
I don't believe they're intending to preserve the structure, but to reconstruct in a similar fashion. So that it will have an historical look. And that's third level away from...
That's what I heard too, that they were going to build a replica or something, but I think it's preferable to preserve when possible. So I'm disappointed they're withdrawing.
Yeah, I don't disagree, and I don't know that we were, I think the complicating factor was the legal factor of splitting the lot.
Maybe.
Unmerging the merge. I think that they saw that that was going to be difficult. I don't know. I didn't have any conversations outside of this meeting.
So they'll be back with something new, I guess, right?
Sorry?
They'll be back with something new in the future, I guess.
I believe they're just building one house, which they're allowed to do by right.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Thank you for your patience.
Audience.
Excuse me, is this a public hearing?
Yes.
Will you take questions from the public?
For 9B?
For this hearing, for this?
For this, yes, indeed, we will. So we just had a continued public hearing for 9B Street, and the applicant had asked to withdraw. It was published for 9:30, so we just addressed that quickly, and we're coming right back to this one. And we will certainly take public comment. Sorry about that. Apologize for the confusion.
So I'll just jump to the next slide. So this photo actually just shows the very southern extent of the Liberty Mutual Pond, which is what we refer to in the easement. You can see it through, runs through. This is actually looking back towards the west. This photo just shows the easement going across Cross Street. There's a pipe marker right on the road there, right on the shoulder, looking east. Again, this passes through the Hopkinton Area Land Trust property. Another photo showing what it looks like through that property. And then this is basically the end of the line on the bottom panel where it enters Ashland. just to the north of Franklin Road and to the east, to the west of Hardwick Road in Ashland. And there is a residential property that's right near the end. This just shows you the easement going across the lawn near Franklin Road. So the application, obviously, for this, from a stormwater management standpoint, we've provided information from an erosion sediment control plan and process. The project is, we're not building any impervious surfaces out there. We're not paving or doing anything like that. The project involves the just trenching of the existing easement, putting in the new pipe, backfilling. So it's really an erosion sediment control type of project, not necessarily something where there's a post-construction stormwater design or building detention basins or things like that, because the contractor, the whole goal of it is to return the grade on the easement to pre-construction condition and not alter the drainage patterns on the easement or anything like that. And that'll be done through the use of BMPs, setting up erosion controls on either side to keep any soils from moving back and forth off the right-of-way into the wetlands and streams. When we're done with construction, making sure that we're seeding, mulching to stabilize soils. So there's a number of measures that will be in play through all these other permits that we've got right now. We need to comply with a SWIP and develop that for the project. We've got DEP conditions, Conservation Commission conditions related to these types of things as well. And I'll just end with the, we are in receipt of the review comments that we got from the peer review engineer, as well as Board of Health and the
Town Council.
Town Council, thank you. We're currently working on all those to provide written responses back to the board with that. I just listed out just kind of a quick list of, in my mind, of the topic points in there, so we're happy to talk about any of these if you
So
like.
I think what we're going to do, just because as we kick off the hearing, I want to make sure we hear from our engineer.
Sure.
I want to make sure we hear from our principal planner, and I want to have room for the public to weigh in. So if Phil, did you have anything you wanted to say at the outset?
Yeah, so this project is a fairly I was going to say not going to be a lot of permanent impacts relative to stormwater. There are obviously going to be some significant work in the easement for require some tree clearing to get their trucks up and down. They do have a fairly lengthy drive to get from one side of the pond all the way back up to in the easement itself. They're going to have to they're going to bring in the pipes in. They're going to bring in some backfill as well to protect their pipe, so the excess dirt is going to have to be taken out. So there's going to be a little bit of truck traffic in this area. They do have an extensive plan. It seems like they've done this before. For matting to cross wetlands. I reviewed the order of conditions relative to conservation. They seem to have addressed everything. Relative to the stormwater standards themselves, they're not proposing. Standard one is new outfall to wetlands, untreated outfalls. They're not proposing any outfalls. As the applicant said, they're not proposing to provide any impervious surface. Once the ground is restored, they should have the same runoff conditions post-construction as they did pre-construction. Because they don't have impervious surfaces, they don't have to deal with recharge, which is standard 3. Standard 4 is TSS removal, also associated with impervious surfaces. They're not in critical areas. It's not land use of high potential pollutant load. So the bulk of the issues is going to be related to erosion controls, managing this stormwater pollution prevention plan during construction, and then restoration of the soil. They do have a fairly extensive restoration where they would rototill the roads as they back out and remove all the matting and all, you know, and do some restorative seeding and stuff like that. So in general, from a stormwater management long-term stormwater management standpoint, it's not significant. However, again, we want the board to be on top of the stormwater pollution prevention plan and be notified when, so there's a few conditions I include.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
I have a question for
Sure,
Phil. Is there any special consideration that should be taken for soil removal or disturbance in the previous Legacy Farms, the Legacy Farms area, yeah. So any place there was pesticide used, that sort of thing? Is there anything that, you know, in terms of transport off-site of soils or anything like that?
So I believe they're gonna take the topsoil, that's what would have all the contaminants in it, and they're gonna stockpile on the side. If you show them that section, they do have stockpile things as they go. And then they would excavate once they move this, because they're gonna restore that's all roads are gonna stay on site.
Okay, but it does say that an unknown amount is going to be transported off-site of soil. So I just wanted to say, you know, if there was any special considerations for that particular area.
Yeah,
that we need
I
to
mean,
put in
that
place.
could be included as a condition.
Okay.
To say, you know, the topsoil has to remain on site.
Madam Chair, I can further answer that question too. I can add some info. Our typical process, if we do have to take material off-site, our contractor will have part of their scope will be to secure a laydown area close to the project. It may not necessarily be in Hopkinton, but it would be in a close proximity to the project. And any soil we would ultimately take to a disposal facility would be taken to this laydown yard first and then sampled for the MCP, Massachusetts standards, and our LSP would be in charge of sampling that. Some facilities may have requirements for herbicides or pesticides, and if that was the case, we would make sure that that was part of the analytical data that we'd sample for. So it depends on the facility where we would take it, but a comprehensive list of samples of analytical data would be provided to those facilities, but the laydown yard would facilitate that sampling.
Thank you.
I think that we already know that the soils on that site need to be handled carefully. And so they probably shouldn't be carted off and brought back. There's some thought should be given to dealing with them on site and leaving them on site.
Yes.
Absolutely, and so the intent would be that the soil would remain on site to after the backfill, the pipe was installed and backfilled, and at that point, if there were any excess soils, it would be removed. But the intent would be to, we find that, you know, we're not going to say there won't be any excess soil, but in the excavating process, we may come across a boulder that comes out, which we would remove from the site, in which case some of the excess soil could fill that void. So we do find that in our experience that, not to say that it all equals out, but we find that we don't usually end up with a lot of excess soil.
Okay. It's just a concern on that site in particular, so.
We will take note of that.
Yeah,
Okay.
and the process I mentioned would be set, our goal is really to lose as much on site as we can back in the trench, and shipping it off site is really, as Sean mentioned, just, you know, do the fluff factor, or, you know, if we, the offset from the sand that we put in the trench, it's secondary to reusing it in the trench. It's cheaper for us, it's logistically easier, less traffic, so there's a benefit to reusing it in the trench.
Okay, thank you. Yep. John?
So Phil covered the stormwater permit pretty well. I'll defer to him on those issues. No particular comments from me on the earth removal, but I do want to call out two comments that the town council had and Board of Health regarding the existing pipeline. Board of Health is concerned with the chemicals that are currently in it and was advocating flushing of that pipe before abandonment, and town council also wanted the planning board to consider the retirement of that pipe and the best possible way to do that. So I would caution the planning board to investigate
Heed those
that.
comments.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. All right, so we will look for you to have some thoughts on that the next time you come back, for sure.
Absolutely.
Okay. At this time, I'd like to make sure that we hear comments from the public who came for this hearing. So if we get, they have to actually sit here so that
No
folks
problem.
at home can hear it. Bob. Welcome.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Bob Foster. I live at 85 Franklin Road. The pipeline does go through the rear of my property, probably 150 feet or so. And I start off by saying that although the Commonwealth has required the company to show a possible alternate route, and the company has done that. They've shown a possible alternate route for the pipeline, which would mostly be in public streets. And I'm opposed to that. I prefer to see it stay right in my backyard rather than having a street in front of me torn up for 6 months for an installation of a gas pipe. And one or two of my neighbors feel pretty much the same way. As for the pipeline itself, just for clarity's sake, the word replace was used, and that kind of suggests that somehow or other the 6 inch is going to be taken out, the 12 inch put in, but which is not the case. Of course, the 6 inch has to remain because it's providing gas to downstream public. So it will stay in place. My concern primarily is going to be the process of construction. They talked about excess material. Much of this pipeline, at least behind my house, and for the half mile or so from Cross Street crossing to the Ashland town line, is lots of boulders, very, very large boulders. And when the original pipeline was laid, they dug it, of course, they ditched it, or they dug it out, and they threw much of the material outside the easement. I mean, in the back of the property, for several of my properties along my neighborhood, we can see where they disposed of rocks and boulders outside the easement. I've attended at least 2 of the public hearings that these fellows mentioned tonight, and I've been assured that they will not be disposing of any material outside the easement. Well, it's a 30-foot wide easement. They're going to protect a 6 inch existing pipeline with, as I understand it, 400 psi pressure. All the time they're installing a new 12 inch line a few feet next to and parallel to the existing line at a depth of something like 5 feet. The plans that I saw in the Conservation Commission showed a 4-foot cover, so I'm 4 feet over a 12-inch pipe with another 6 inches of bedding. It's pretty deep. And to dig that through that wetland, and you saw in the pictures those puddles that you saw at one point, that's pretty much in my rear property, and from there on down to the Ashland town line. That's what it looks like. Today it's underwater. And except for maybe a couple of weeks in August, there'll be standing water in that in that area. So that process of excavation is going to be in water. They're going to have to de-water the site in order to lay the pipe. They're going to have to dispose of some very large rocks and boulders, which they are obviously not going to use as backfill. That's going to go somewhere, and they're going to have to bring in material for the backfill. The discussion of whether or not there will be trucking on and off the site, pretty certain it seems to me that I've been in construction all my life, so I've seen a lot of this kind of thing, particularly here in Hopkinton. So I do believe that there will be lots of trucking on and off the site for a fairly long trip in from Cross Street to get to that wetland that you saw in the view. So the process of construction, not only is it a question of how they're going to dispose of that material that they can use for backfill, but also how they're going to protect the existing pipeline. I mean, we'd hate to see East Hopkinton disappear in a big cloud.
Yeah.
Nobody will be happy about that. And I'm pretty confident in the town of Hopkinton, DPW, the Conservation Commission, our town engineers, to supervise this and see that there is, safety there in the construction. But I make the point that it is going to be not easy. The question, the word significant or insignificant was used. Insofar as the rear of my property, it is significant, to me at least, and to many of our neighbors, and that whole wetland area. A couple of questions I didn't hear clearly. Either it's because the acoustics in here are not so good, or else it's me. And it may be.
It's probably the acoustics, Bob.
Okay. I'm not too sure of the timing on this. I'd like to know when this is going to begin and what the timing is likely to be. Also, I'm interested to know about jurisdiction. I know the Conservation Commission has jurisdiction. They'll have an order of conditions. I've seen plans in their office. But I'm wondering, is there an overlap between your jurisdiction and that of the Conservation Commission under our bylaw? And who is actually tasked with supervising the construction as it's going on?
I'm going to defer to the principal planner to explain that.
So, town council suggested, rightly so, to provide in the conditions for funding to have the town engineer or the town's consulting engineer review the construction. So that would be the oversight of the SWIP and the stormwater issues and the earth removal. I would assume Concom has its own peer reviewer that would oversee any wetlands issues, the reconstruction of any type of wetlands and the work within the wetlands. So it would overlap in the areas that the work overlaps, but it would be more for the Concom's engineer would be reviewing the Concom's specific work, and the planning board's engineer would be reviewing the planning board specific
Yeah, as I understand, yours is stormwater management. Conservation Commission, of course, is natural conditions.
Correct.
And their concern is going to be the heavier concern, I'm sure, because it's going to be a lot of water in there and some very difficult digging.
And I think I heard the timeline is 2020 to 2024. Is that right?
20 to 24?
2020.
I believe it's 20 to 2021 for Hopkinton, and then the whole.
Oh, for the whole thing. I wrote down the whole thing was to 2024. But to 2021 in Hopkinton? 1.5 years approximately in Hopkinton.
That's not unreasonable.
With May through November construction period. Yes.
Again, just for the record, my understanding is that they will not be disposing of any soil outside the 30-foot easement. Okay, those are my interests. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
To the chair, can we ask them to answer the question about the alternate route?
Yeah, but not right now.
Okay.
We're running out of time. Yes, please come forward.
Katie Towner, 9 Kruger Road. My question had to do with the letter that the Board of Health Director wrote about flushing the abandoned pipe. And I guess my question to the board to ask the applicant is to identify the hazardous materials that are in the abandoned pipe. It's my understanding that it would be all the hazardous materials that the applicant routinely removes from the gas pipeline as a matter of their normal operations. When they bring the gas in, it has impurities. They remove it. They know what they are. I think it's only right that, that should be part of this public hearing to say what those chemicals are. I'd be surprised if they hadn't had a report about the, as has been done with other projects that they've been involved in and brought before this board. If there hadn't been a consultant hired to write a report about the potential hazardous chemicals involved in the project, I believe that, I don't know what all the hazardous materials are, but I believe mercury is one of them that would be present in that abandoned pipe. And that's the reason why the request to add to the order of conditions the flushing of the pipe, and also the that it shouldn't be that in the course of flushing the pipe, none of the surround soils should be contaminated by the, the mercury or the other chemicals that are in the abandoned pipe. So care has to be taken. It sounds like it would be some kind of a process that would have to be designed by some hazardous material reclamation company, and I'm surprised that Beta didn't address that in their comments. I think that I would like to ask why they didn't do that, like you to ask them why they didn't do that, and just that be highlighted. I think that the fact of flushing a pipe may bring a visual of just, whoosh with water, but, it's not that type of a process. It's a process that is meant to prevent the soil from being contaminated. And also, when they were talking about the soil, the existing Legacy Farms contaminated soil, they did not seem to appreciate, they talked about, we'll minimize the amount that we removed. They didn't seem to appreciate the issue, so I guess I would ask that conversation be continued until there's acknowledgement that they appreciate the fact that they shouldn't be removing any soil from the property.
Question?
Hold on. Did you have more, Kate?
No.
Okay.
For the newer members and people at home that may not know, you're an engineer, correct?
I'm a degreed engineer. I'm not a, professional engineer.
Well, did your master's or doctorate?
I have a bachelor's and a master's.
So you understand the science, which is what I'm saying is my point, is that you've studied this and you know this topic well.
I'm not a chemical engineer. I'm an electrical engineer, so my area of expertise is systems, electrical. I can read drawings, obviously, but I'm not a professional. I don't stamp things.
Okay.
I guess my point is you're a learned person.
I think we're all learned people.
Thank you, Kate.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else in the public who came to speak? Please come forward.
Through the chair, just quickly to respond.
Yes.
The Board of Health has reviewed, I don't know where they got the results, it was a very long spreadsheet of chemicals that have been identified in the pipe. So I think it would be great to have Eversource confirm that list or provide their own list. And there is a process, the department head explained it to me, but it's something beyond my scope to actually do the flushing, and it's an established process. So I think.
Does the Board of Health oversee that established process?
I don't know.
All right, we need to find out how that is managed, if we could. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name's Sean Morrow. I live at 88 Franklin Road. I just have some, pretty general questions and then one concern. Just a few questions that I have. I'm just curious, what the greatest distance the new pipeline will deviate from the existing pipeline. I'd also just like to know the types of construction vehicles and how they'd access that easement. Can they actually, drive the vehicles down the existing easement to access that area? Are they going to be, you know, disturbing forest and woods? And then, you know, the big thing for me is just, concern is just pollution. You know, I have 3 young children. You know, we have a well. I think most of the road is on well water. You know, I don't know anything about, you know, preventing the pollution, et cetera, but, you know, it is concerning. Just, you know, the existing pipe will be in the ground, and I have no idea what type of, you know, pollution could occur from that. But I just, you know, rely on the town that, you know, we go through the proper process to make sure, you know, that all that is taken care of appropriately.
Okay, thank you. Should ask the Board of Health about that as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming. Anybody else? We are ready to, when are we going to continue this to?
September 9th.
September 9th. Do we have any extensions on decisions?
Earth removal,
The stormwater needs to be
September 4 and August 5. Earth removal is September 4.
So both of the decisions have to be extended? Yes.
The earth removal, yes, because it would be September 9th and August 12th. Yeah, so both of them would have.
Both of them, okay. So I will entertain a motion to continue this public hearing to September 9th, and the decisions on the stormwater and the earth removal to September 16th. Better math, because I had help from my friends.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Nice job, guys. Thank you all.
Audience we ever had for an event.